परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टादश श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सूत्राकर श्री प्रभुपाद की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की, श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की, वृंदावन धाम की, मायापुर नवदीप धाम की, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की, गंगामय की, यमुनामय की, भक्ति देवी की, तुलसी महारानी की, समेत गौर भक्त वृंद। All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naranam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, quick revision of yesterday. Yes, Kadam.
We discussed about this killing of this deliverance of Roma Harshan Sutta. So why did that, despite of great learning also, he had no good qualities, and his good qualities did not manifest? So said realized knowledge, Anubhavi Jnana and Pustaki Jnana, and many discussions we had on that.
Okay, good.
How to convert the Pustaki Jnana into realized knowledge? So, by remembering the activities of such pure soul, by actually serving them, Ata Sri Krishna Namadina Gayat Bhavendriyo, Seven Mukhe Jivvado, Swayam Evaspuratyata. We gave the example of gulab jamun also. Unless you eat it, you will not be able to understand, taste the sweetness of the gulab. So, we have to have the association of such people, serve them also. Then only this Pustaki Jnana will be transferred into the realized knowledge. That was not happening in the Roma Harshan Sutta.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Prabhuji, online, can we?
Yes, yes.
Prabhuji, so the heart-touching point that was there, the theory knowledge is not equal to experience knowledge, because when somebody becomes very spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord, and his name, fame, qualities and all, so then that is the Lord reveals to him. and
Yes.
mundane scholarship will be only information but no transformation. So then you give a solution also to this. That what is the then you mentioned that somebody should be very fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness.
Right.
And then you gave an example also that the more one is purified consciousness, he will attentively hear. You gave example of Her Grace Yamuna Mataji and Her Grace Kaushalya Mataji also.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
So also we discussed about what is most important in devotional service is how we can we attract grace. Whatever may do, but unless we don't get the grace, and there is no question of giving up the bona fide spiritual master. We may follow the etiquette of referring to other Vaishnavas if there is any difficulty in following instruction.
Okay, good.
So finally, it boils down to actually doing it, not just hearing it. That we have to put it into action. Whatever doing pure devotional service is actually putting it into action, not just reading and being proud of that knowledge.
Right. Good.
Patitya and Kapatya. So Maharaj was saying that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to, or Guru has come to uplift who is a Patita, but not Kapatya.
Yes.
And then he says that that Kapatya is pretending sleeper. So he cannot be woken up.
Correct.
And for him, solution is to again go back to same Guru from whom he has abandoned. Again take shelter of him. There no other can give him shelter. And then what is the reason of this Kapatya? He says, Maharaj was saying that it is Pujala Pratishtha. That is a Sukaravishta.
Correct.
Correct, Prabhuji. You told that you have to follow the instructions of the seniors without discriminating. Like you gave example of a South Indian Brahmana.
Yes. Okay.
Real friendship in Dantavakra when he came. So you talk about real friendship is actually one who makes us attracted and attached to Krishna. But he was showing his friendship, but it was in a different way.
Right. Okay.
And Romaharshan Suta, he killed because of the kapatya of, Balram killed Romaharshan Suta because of his more kapatya. Otherwise, there was no problem.
Okay, good.
You mentioned how Lord Krishna and Lord Balram stopped killing after killing this Dantavakra Vidurat and all. And even Balramji also did not kill with the weapons, he killed simply with the hands. So
Straw.
Straw. And and even you mentioned about how Dantavakra, even though there was fight whole day and night, but then in one stroke only Lord killed him.
Okay, fine.
Prabhuji, also you mentioned that a Krishna conscious person is has realized knowledge. That realized knowledge is a gift from Krishna because this Krishna conscious person, he is simply satisfied with devotional service. Means he's satisfied because he becomes perfect by this transcendental knowledge, and then he can remain very steady in his convictions also. By when he's actually following all these, and then he does not become confused or deluded also, because sometimes some people become confused by some jnana, some karmas, and some apparent contradictions also. So that realized soul is actually very what do you mention, self-controlled also, because he's completely surrendered to Krishna, and that is why then he's transcendental, because he has nothing to do with this mundane scholarship.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Shubha.
Balramji, after killing Romaharshan Suta, still when Brahmanas asked, we have already blessed him and everything. So Lord himself also asked, if you want, I can revive. So to set an example for others that to respect Brahmanas, and you can even if Lord wants to revive him back also, if they want.
Yes, but what did they ask for?
They to satisfy both the desires. So Lord kept his son as a to speak with this
Right.
Bhagavad.
And what is the other request they made? To kill Balbal. To kill Balbal, and then as atonement go on pilgrimage for 12 months.
This Atandasya Avinidasya, so that was the word. So when you surrender to Krishna, then purification happens, grace of the Lord, then we can control senses. And one more thing, that Krishna consciousness is science. So science means variable and it relevant of time, place. So when practice is proper, then result has to come.
Correct. Thank you. Okay, one last point, Pranab.
I had a question.
Okay.
Prabhuji, the article which you made us read about crookedness. So in that article before, two examples of crookedness have been spoken by Maharaj. One is about a student and a teacher. That is understood very. And the first one was, about eating. So over there's something of shamefulness also is required. So what is the meaning of between knave means being that and being shameful and not being crooked.
See, others may not have read that, so you have to tell what you're referring to.
So one example was there that suppose you are sitting with other devotees to eat honor prasadam, and one devotee, because of he eats quite a lot. So, but others are finishing it off quickly when you sitting in a panti. So then, but he is feeling that how others will feel that I am eating so much. So he just says, no, I won't eat. But he is feeling hungry. So Maharaj said, this is kapatyata. So, so this thing comes that there is some tinge of shamefulness is also required, which is important. So how does crookedness and shamefulness goes?
See, that is, of course, to illustrate the point, it's a very simple example. I mean, it is not like a very big mistake or something like that. So he's feeling a little shy to ask for more in front of others. So he says, okay, theek hai. But anyways, he's giving that also as an example. So if one is honest, then why he should simply make a show of being very sense controlled? So anyway, we must understand the principle behind that. नहीं, इतना details नहीं है उसमें. नहीं.
Prabhu, it must be that based on our sadhana, we don't make others feel less. That also may be a.
So anyway, that's a simple point there. That see, basically the person can be honest. That's what Maharaj is trying to explain there. So the person can be honest. Okay, I require more prasadam. So I can be honest. Okay, I require more. Finished. So why should one make a show of being very sense controlled, and then internally he's feeling I want more, but then externally makes a show. So that's sort of a little bit of duplicitous behavior. Anyway, understand the principle. It's not, huh?
Prabhu, is it not that we should wait for him to finish and we should not get up, and that way he will feel comfortable?
And see, I mean, that depends on the situation. No? What is the etiquette in the particular place? And those are all details. That's not so important.
You give a very graphic example of that flight wala incident, that somebody dies, that one lady died, that makes sure. How air hostess are very, because their goal is very fixed. They are mainly money minded and motivated. That's why this is the.
Yes. So that's
Actually,
making a show of good qualities.
So actually, that was in connection with humility is not external, but it is internal. It is based on the motive and not the satisfaction of being honored by others. It should be like for pleasing Guru.
Correct. Yes, that's right. Okay, fine. So now let's proceed with the next chapter. So the next chapter, essentially, the 79th chapter, is Lord Balaram fulfilling the desires of the sages. So two desires they expressed. One is to kill Balwal, and the second is to go on pilgrimage.
So questions for that?
Samarpan Gopru has not yet come. Others, he'll come up with some more questions. No, he has his class. Any case, let him come afterwards. We'll discuss that. Or you can ask personally, otherwise. Okay, so so this chapter is essentially that atonement of Lord Balaram, as requested by the sages. So if somebody asks you to speak on atonement in Krishna consciousness, what will you speak?
Kwachin nivardhate Bhadrad. Kwachin nivardhate Bhadrad. That sixth canto. Now what is atonement means that main atonement is chanting of the holy names.
Okay.
Ajamila episode.
Okay, fine. Reading one chapter of Bhagavad Gita in 6 years. Oh, really?
Regarding the Subhuddhi Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Subhuddhi Rai. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said chanting of holy name is nothing, no required of atonement. Ghee, drinking and all, so many where options were given.
Okay, so mainly the chanting of the holy. Anything else?
Srila Prabhupada says that even NOD also says that bhakti itself is a purificatory process.
Yes.
So no extra things are required. So
Correct.
just by continuing this Nobida bhakti, so one can get purified. Only thing one can add repentance in between.
Yes.
Repentance.
Yes.
That one has done the sin.
Yes, repentance is a part of the atonement. So just like here also, Lord Balaram is repenting. Lord Balaram said, "Oh, I've committed such a great mistake by killing." So the repentance is a part of the atonement. The atonement. So what happens when one repents? When there is repentance, atonement, what happens?
Purification.
Yes, purification. And what is the result of the purification? Soft heart, okay.
Transparency.
Transparency, okay.
Krishna consciousness will increase.
How?
Compassion.
Purity
is increased, okay, correct. Okay, at the end one will become perfect. Okay, I would just like to read a relevant purport.
Even in Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada is writing in the very first purport on the real atonement, his real knowledge.
Yes, so that, yes, there Srila Prabhupada explains about that. Hati Snan. Yes. Yes, that Prabhupada is explaining. So the atonement of all the other people, that is not real atonement because the tendency to commit sin does not go away. So karmis, jnanis, so they are also performing atonement, but that does not destroy the tendency to commit sin. Okay. First canto, third chapter, text 34. Read the verse translation purport.
यद्यो एष परता देवी माया वैसारधीमति संपन्न एवति विदुर्महिम्नि सेवे महीयते. If the illusory energy subsides and the living entity becomes fully enriched with knowledge by the grace of the Lord, then he becomes at once enlightened with self-realization and thus becomes situated in his own glory. Okay, 1 minute.
Purport.
Yes, Prabhuji. Purport. Because the Lord is the absolute transcendence, all of his forms, names, pastimes, attributes, associates, and energies are identical with him. His transcendental energy acts according to his omnipotency. The same energy acts as his external, internal, and marginal energies. And by his omnipotency, he can perform anything and everything through the agency of any of the above energies. He can turn the external energy into internal by his will. Therefore, by his grace, the external energy which is employed in illusioning those living beings who want to have it subsides by the will of the Lord in terms of repentance and penance for the conditioned soul. and the very same energy then acts to help the purified living being make progress on the path of self-realization.
So the important point is yes, he can turn the external energy into internal by his will. Therefore, by his grace, the external energy which is employed in illusioning those living beings who want to have it subsides by the will of the Lord in terms of repentance and penance for the conditioned soul. And then the very same energy then acts to help the purified living being make progress. So by the repentance and penance, purification takes place. Because of the purification, the Lord is pleased. By the Lord's will, the influence of the external energy is turned into influence of internal energy because of the repentance and penance. So because of the repentance and penance, purification, Lord is pleased, and by his grace, external energy turns into internal energy. That is what happens.
Does it mean that external converting to internal, does it mean that what was impelling him towards ignorance, the same thing will impel towards him to Krishna?
Yes, just like the classic example in this case is that of Vidura and Duryodhan. There is that wonderful purport Srila Prabhupada has given in that pastime, where Srila Prabhupada explains that on Duryodhan the external energy was acting, and so therefore he was behaving in very envious and arrogant ways. But then when Duryodhan threw Vidura out of the palace, the internal energy was acting on Vidura. So therefore, Vidura did not respond in similar way. He didn't start quarreling, fighting. He didn't do that. So by the influence of the internal energy, Vidura just left everything, went on Tirthayatra. That was the influence of the internal energy. So situation is the same. So how a person responds in a situation depends upon what is influencing him, the internal energy or the external energy. So we want to be influenced by the internal energy, right? So if we want the internal energy to influence us so that we make the right decisions in so many different situations, then what is needed is that we are sufficiently purified by repentance and penance. And so in Krishna consciousness, basically that is what we're doing. So we are following the 4 regulative principles, avoiding sinful activities. That is our repentance. And it is penance also, of course. And of course, the penance is the positive devotional activities that we are performing. That is the penance. That is the tapasya. To chant 16 rounds attentively, to come for boring classes like this. Then all this is big tapasya. But if one goes through the tapasya, then one gets purified. So both the activities are required, repentance and penance. So what happens by repentance? Srila Prabhupada writes in 1st Canto, 19th chapter, 1st verse purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, all the sinful reactions are burnt up in the fire of repentance. So when one repents, it acts like a fire where all the sinful reactions are burnt up. So, and therefore we find the acharyas in so many of the Vaishnava songs, they are showing through their example how a sincere devotee repents for his past sinful activities. And of course, repentance does not mean simply to feel bad about what I've done and go into some depression. No. But then when one feels repentant, then one understands that I need to get purified. So after repentance, there needs to be the penance or the rectification. The penance is the rectification part. So one has to undergo the positive rectification. So if one feels that I'm very fallen, I've committed so many sinful activities, then that means one has to take the purificatory process more seriously. Not simply go into depression, oh, I'm so useless, so fallen. No, okay, you're fallen, very well, that's okay. But then now do something positive to become purified. So then one has to intensely practice devotional service, intensely chant the holy names, intensely hear, intensely do all the services. So there must be sincerity, seriousness to please Guru and Vaishnavas. So that is the positive rectification that is required. When both the aspects are there, so just like Jaga and Madhai, they sincerely repented, and what was the rectification they did besides chanting the holy names? They made ghats and they did service to the Vaishnavas. So that is the positive penance, rectification that they did. And as repentance, when people used to come to take bath, they used to give them stones and hit us. So of course we can't imitate that. But then at least we must try to avoid further sinful activities and try to get purified.
What is the stones thing, Prabhu?
What?
The stones example.
Jaga and Madhai, when people used to come to take bath at the ghats, they used to give them stones and tell them, hit us for all the trouble that we have given you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Fine. So here Lord Balaram himself is going through that repentance and penance.
I've read that this Maya Shakti has two energies. One is Vidya and Avidya.
Correct.
So this Vidya helps the living entity to get liberation. And after liberation, when he gets Bhakti, then Chitta Shakti comes, internal potency comes. So means there's a difference here. So here exactly external energy is not converting, but he's helping till liberation. And then after liberation, Chitta Shakti will take over.
Correct. Correct. Okay, fine. Let's go ahead with Chapter 79, Lord Balram goes on pilgrimage. Okay, first verse. Shri Shuka Uvacha Tata Parvanyupavritte Prachandha Pamshuvarshanaha Bhimo Vayurabhudrajan Puya Gandhastu Sarvashaha. Shukadeva Goswami said, then on the new moon day, O king, a fierce and frightening wind arose, scattering dust all about and spreading the smell of pus everywhere. Text 2. Next, onto the sacrificial arena came a downpour of abominable things sent by Balwal, after which the demon himself appeared, trident in hand. Okay, please read the description of the demon.
The immense demon resembled a mass of black carbon. His top knot and beard were like molten copper, and his face had horrible fangs and furrowed eyebrows. Upon seeing him, Lord Balram thought of his club, which tears to pieces his enemies' armies, and his plow weapon, which punishes the demons. Thus summoned, his two weapons appeared before him at once.
Continue.
With the tip of his plow, Lord Balram caught hold of the demon Balwal as he flew through the sky. And with his club, the Lord angrily struck the harasser of Brahmanas on the head. Balwal cried out in agony and fell to the ground, his forehead cracked open and gushing blood. He resembled a dread mountain struck by a lightning bolt. Purport. According to the Acharyas, the demon appeared reddish with blood, like a mountain dread with oxide.
Continue. So here, no big fights, immediately finished.
The exalted sages honored Lord Rama with sincere prayers and awarded him infallible blessings. Then they performed his ritual birth, just as the demigod had formerly bathed Indra when he killed Vritra.
Continue.
They gave Lord Balram a Vaijayanti garland of unfading lotuses in which resided a goddess of fortune, and they also gave him a set of divine garments and jewelry. Then, given leave by the sages, the Lord went with a contingent of Brahmanas to the Kaushaki river, where he bathed. From there, he went to the lake from which flows the river Sarayu.
Next.
The Lord followed the course of Sarayu until he came to Prayag, where he bathed and then performed ritual to propitiate the demigods and other living beings. Next, he went to the ashrama of Pulaha Rishi.
Continue. So now Balram's Tita Yatra is being described. What all places he went?
Hare Krishna. Lord Balram bathed in the Gomati, Gandaki, Vipasha rivers and also immersed himself in the Sona. He went to Gaya where he worshipped his forefather and to the mouth of the Ganga where he performed purifying of ablution. At Mount Mahindra he saw Lord Parshuram and offered him prayers. Then he bathed in the 7 branches of Godavari and also in the river of Vena, Pampa, Bhimrati. Then Lord Balrama met Lord Skanda and visited Sri Shaila, the abode of Lord Girisha. In the southern provinces known as Dravida Desha, the Supreme Lord saw the sacred Venkata hill as well as the cities of Kamakoshi, Kanchi, the exalted Kaveri river, and the most holy Sri Ranga, where Lord Krishna has manifested himself. From there, he went to Rishabha mountain, where Lord Krishna also lives, and to the southern, southern
Madura, that is Madurai.
Mathura. Then he came to Setubandha, where the most grievous sins are destroyed. Purport. Usually one goes to Gaya to worship deceased forefather, but as Srila Vishwanath Chakur Thakur explained, although Lord Balram father and grandfather were still alive, it was on his father order that he carefully worship his forefather at Gaya. Drawing insight from the Vaishnava Toshini, the Acharya further explained that although Lord Balrama was in the immediate proximity of Jagannath Puri, he did not go there, since he wanted to avoid the embarrassment of having to worship himself among the forms of Sri Krishna, Balbhadra and Subhadra.
He has to worship himself, so embarrassing. Yes. I also don't know exactly, but somebody can find out. Go ahead.
Charity. He then visited the Kritamala and Tamraparani river and the great Malaya mountains. In the Malaya range, Lord Balram found Agastya Rishi sitting in meditation. And after bowing down to the sage, the Lord offered him prayers and then received blessings from him. Taking leave from Agastya, he proceeded to the shore of the southern ocean, where he saw Goddess Durga in her form of Kanyakumari. Next, he went to Falguna Tirtha and bathed in the sacred Panchapsara lake, where Lord Vishnu had directly manifested himself. At this place, he gave away another 10,000 cows. The Supreme Lord then traveled through the kingdoms of Kerala and Trigartha, visiting Lord Shiva's sacred city of Gokarna, where Lord Dhurjati Shiva directly manifests himself. After also visiting Goddess Parvati, who dwells on an island, Lord Balram went to the holy district of Shuraparaka and bathed there in the Tapi, Payoshni, and Nirvindhya rivers. He next entered the Dandaka forest and went to river Reva, along which the city of Mahishmati is found. Then he bathed at Manu Tirtha and finally returned to Prabhash. The Lord heard from some Brahmanas how all the kings involved in battle between Kurus and Pandavas had been killed. From this, he concluded that the earth was now relieved of her burden. Wanting to stop the club fight then raging between Bhima and Duryodhan on the battlefield, Lord Balram went to Kurukshetra.
Krishna, when Yudhishthira, Lord Krishna, Arjuna and the twin brothers Nakula and Sahadeva saw Lord Balaram, they offered him respectful obeisances, but said nothing, thinking, what has he come here to tell us? Srila Prabhupada writes, the reason they were silent was that Lord Balaram was somewhat affectionate toward Duryodhana. who had learned from Balramji the art of fighting with a club. Thus, when the fighting was going on, King Yudhishthira and the others thought that Balaram might have come there to say something in favor of Duryodhana, and therefore they remained silent. Lord Balaram found Duryodhana and Bhima with clubs in their hands, each furiously striving for victory over the other as they circled about skillfully. The Lord addressed them as follows. Lord Balaram said, King Duryodhana and Bhima, listen, you two warriors are equal in fighting prowess. I know that one of you has greater physical power while other is better trained in technique. Bhima was physically more powerful, but Duryodhana was more advanced in terms of technique.
Since you are so evenly matched in fighting prowess, I do not see how either of you can win or lose this duel. Therefore, please stop this useless battle. Shukdev Goswami continued. They did not accept Lord Balram's request, O king, although it was logical, for their mutual enmity was irrevocable. Each of them constantly remembered the insults and the injuries he had suffered from the other.
Because of that, they could not give up their enmity, even though Lord Balram is trying to pacify them.
Concluding that the battle was the arrangement of fate, Lord Balram went back to Dwarka. There he was greeted by Ugrasen and his other relatives, who were all delighted to see him. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the word Dishtam, fate, indicates that the battle between Bhima and Duryodhana had been enjoined by Lord Krishna and set into motion by him.
So Balaram understood nobody can stop this battle because Krishna has orchestrated the whole thing.
This is like Achintya.
You said the right thing. It is Achintya.
They are both mystical.
Yes, yes. We can't understand everything. So be happy with the pastime.
This Pandavas, when we read these things, and we also know that they're pure devotees. So when we hear about Yudhishthir, then whatever Bhagavatam, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu and all the emotions and all that, it quite matches. But when we see like Bhima and all, like here it is told, remembering the insults and all that was there, and he doesn't want to stop the fight. So how do we understand this?
That is what we're reading. When Krishna is only inspiring him to fight, who can stop?
Krishna is inspiring Bhima like that. And Duryodhana in another way. But
everything is being orchestrated. Otherwise, who will kill Duryodhana? If Bhima stops fighting, who will kill him? So that's what Lord Balaram understood. Lord Balaram understood that this is superior power orchestrating the whole thing. So they are not going to stop fighting. Chhod diya.
So these emotions of enmity and negativity and all about, it is orchestrated by Krishna.
In this case, definitely.
In this case. And there some more things happened in this first time. Some talk, or that is during other fight where Balramji came.
That's in Mahabharata. It's not mentioned here.
No. Yeah, that's what. Here, so many things are not mentioned. But here only it happens, that there is some kind of talk. Then Balramji's, Krishna says, I will talk to him. I don't know. I have not read.
Raj is on Bhima. And then Krishna comes in between both of them.
He
That's
comes.
the whole dialogue.
That is
is
it.
on Bhima.
When discussion is going on, Hindi says, Bhati Ganga mein haath dho lena. So I thought I'll just ask a question related to this. Krishna says, Samaham sarva bhuteshu. Name dvishtyasti napiha. Prabhuji was saying, right? Krishna, Balaram, more or less same. So this itself remains an achintya. In other words, Balaramji showing favor to Duryodhana. When Krishna says the next two lines of that verse is about bhaktya. There is no bhakti. Duryodhana was, from the beginning, he didn't have that. So how do we understand Balramji's favor?
There's one article which Chetan Chand Prabhu has written on this topic. So you can read that for more details. But the essence of that is, see, basically Duryodhan was his student. So because he was a student, so therefore there is some affection on that basis. So it has nothing to do with his devotion or anything like that. So just because he was student, he has learned from him. So as a teacher-student relationship, there was some affection. That's all.
But Balramji being the Lord, Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu, that should still manifest. Okay.
Yes. So it is not that he has his affection is not based on his devotion. It is simply based on that external relationship of a teacher and a student.
And this is where the question comes, because according to Mahabharata, when it was in front of Balramji, Bhima, on Krishna's instruction via Arjuna, Bhima had struck him below the waist. And Duryodhana crashed. And Balramji got so enraged, he charged up at Bhima, literally to crush him. And then Krishna came in between of both of them. So from that background of the story, Samaham Sarva Bhuteshu, I'm just kind of course, this is Leela, we can relish and be happy about it. I mean, I just sort of, question has been raised, here. I thought of asking that way.
This is what I know and what I remember. But maybe you can read that Chetan Chand Prabhu's article. He gives maybe a few more details there.
Actually, the Guru is more merciful than even Krishna. So Balramji is the Guru, and if the Balramji rejects the living entity, there is no hope. So even though Duryodhana is having material affection to Balram, it cannot be material. Because he is Balram, he is Krishna. Even if somebody is becoming materially affection to devotee of Krishna, he will get benefit. So therefore Acharya says that he is gone case, and therefore Balram, the Guru, is more merciful than Krishna also.
Okay, fine. We accept your explanations. Okay, fine. Let's go ahead.
Concluding that that is over. No?
30.
30. Later, Lord Balram returned to Naimisharanya, where the sages joyfully engaged him, the embodiment of all sacrifice, in performing various kinds of Vedic sacrifice. Lord Balram was now retired from warfare.
Purport.
Srila Prabhupada writes, when Lord Balram went to the holy place of pilgrimage at Naimisharanya, the sages, saintly persons and brahmanas all stood up to receive him. They understood that Lord Balram, although a Kshatriya, was now retired from the fighting business. The brahmanas and the sages, who were always for peace and tranquility, were very pleased at this. All of them embraced Balram with great affection and induced him to perform various kinds of sacrifices in that sacred spot of Naimisharanya. Actually, Lord Balram had no business performing the sacrifices recommended for ordinary human beings. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he himself is the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. As such, his exemplary action in performing sacrifices was only to give lesson to the common man, to show how one should abide by the injunctions of the Vedas.
Yes. So ultimately, Balram did all this only for setting example. Otherwise, he doesn't have to go on Tirtha Yatra and do all those things. But just to give respect to the Brahmana's words and set an example for all the other people, that is the reason he performs all this. Okay? 31.
The all-powerful Lord Balaram bestowed upon the sages pure spiritual knowledge, by which they could see the whole universe within him and also see him pervading everything. 32. After executing with his wife the Avabrita ablutions, the beautifully dressed and ornamented Lord Balaram, encircled by his immediate family and other relatives and friends, looked as splendid as the moon surrounded by its effulgent rays. Purport. Srila Prabhupada beautifully describes this scene as follows. Lord Balram then took the Avabrita bath, which is taken after finishing the sacrificial performances. After taking his bath, he dressed himself in new silken garments and decorated himself with beautiful jewelry. Amidst his relatives and friends, he appeared to be shining full moon amidst the luminaries in the sky. 33. Countless other such pastimes were performed by mighty Balaram, the unlimited and the immeasurable Supreme Lord, whose mystic Yogmaya power makes him appear to be a human being.
And the last verse. Okay, let's recite.
Yo anusmaret ramasya karmanyadbhuta karmanah sayam prataranantasya vishnu sadayito bhavet. All the activities of the unlimited Lord Balaram are amazing. Anyone who regularly remembers them at dawn and dusk will become very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Vishnu. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, Lord Balaram is the original Vishnu. Therefore, anyone remembering these pastimes of Lord Balaram in the morning and evening will certainly become a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus his life will become successful in all respects. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada to the 10th canto, 79th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Lord Balaram Goes on Pilgrimage.
Hare Krishna.
So questions?
What's your question?
So here, generally, the Brahmanas have so much power that they could have finished. I mean, they generally could finish something like Vena. Then what is Balval? So why do they, request Balram to finish him off? Why did they tolerate? Is it the duty of a Brahmana to tolerate and not do such a thing?
Yeah, so that we understand in the case of Vishwamitra also, no? So those sages, those demons in Dandakaranya. So Vishwamitra could have finished them, but then he doesn't do that because Brahmanas are not supposed to do that. That's not their duty. So the Kshatriyas' duty is to do that. So therefore, they give that work to the Kshatriyas.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
So just talking about these pastimes of Lord Balaram and why he's supporting Duryodhan, all those. So there could be some reasons, but at the same time, as we know this phrase, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vignana Bhujai. It is not always possible to understand all the activities of the Lord and His devotees. So some things are very difficult to understand. It just reminded me of a pastime which Shrutakirti Prabhu shares when they came to Mayapur. So Srila Prabhupada was there and Shrutakirti Prabhu was serving him. So there was one particular god brother who came to meet Srila Prabhupada, and after he spoke to Srila Prabhupada and went away, so then Srila Prabhupada told Shrutakirti Prabhu, see, this person, he speaks so much of Prajalpa. This god brother is doing this, that god brother is doing this, all Prajalpa, useless stuff. Next time he comes, don't allow him. So he gave instruction. So now, the next day itself, in the afternoon time, he came. So now Shrutakirti Prabhu has got instruction. Don't allow him. So then Shrutakirti Prabhu very humbly, gently, Prabhupada's god brother. So he tells him, Srila Prabhupada is taking rest, which was a fact. It was not a lie. It was not a made up thing. He was actually taking rest. So he told the fact and it served both purposes. So he told Prabhupada is taking. He said, okay, I'll wait. And then Shrutakirti Prabhu was trying different ways. He was saying he's busy, this, that. So he was trying to sort of push him away. And as these two were conversing, Prabhupada woke up. And when Srila Prabhupada woke up, so Srila Prabhupada, he immediately came out and then he welcomed his god brother. Oh, you have come, so nice, please come. So that god brother started complaining against Shrutakirti Prabhu. See, your disciple, he doesn't allow me inside. I've come all the way to meet you. And then Srila Prabhupada says, hey, don't, you always, whenever he comes, you allow him. So Shrutakirti was totally bewildered. So if we try to analyze these things, we'll get nowhere. So because Srila Prabhupada is dealing with a very difficult situation. So on one hand, he doesn't like to meet his god brother, but on the other hand, he, after all, is god brother, and at the same time, he doesn't want him to go gossiping around telling this Bhaktivedanta Swami is like this and like that. So therefore, when he actually comes, and so he's welcoming him and he's telling, okay. So therefore, there are some things which we just cannot analyze and try to use mundane intelligence to understand everything. Some things we just have to leave. So therefore, Shrutakirti Prabhu says, so therefore, I would never ask questions to Srila Prabhupada. Why like this? Why like that? So he says, whatever Srila Prabhupada will say, yes, Prabhupada. That's all. So the point is, everything cannot be analyzed, understood. So some things we just have to accept. Otherwise, if we get into that, so somebody else could have got into argument with Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, just yesterday you gave me instruction not to allow him, and today you're saying like this, I'm doing my duty. What you're saying, somebody could get into argument with Prabhupada. And that would become another offense. But then, so therefore, some things we just have to leave.
Prabhu, there is one, this is very nicely understood, Achintya Bhava, but the very similar thing that we can see with Krishna's faces of Shiva or Balram, who are both Adi Guru, that, he has these two doors where people can go to them for strength or something other than bhakti, and then they get smashed up finally, just because they are going for some other ulterior purpose, even to Balram, though he is so close to Krishna, but doesn't come to Krishna directly, like Arjuna takes the shelter of Krishna. So there is that somewhere mentioned by any acharya, one of the reasons why this sort of a gate is open to people who are attracted to some other thing other than just bhakti.
So I'm just trying to understand your question.
No, see, the observation is like, say, Ravana taking shelter of
Yes, Lord Shiva, because he wants some material things, na?
Yeah, so similarly here, Duryodhana also, he wants strength and power, so he's taking shelter of Balram. He doesn't come to Krishna though. So something is missing there in that, though Balram is...
Yes, so basically he wants material things. But of course, there's a difference. Lord Shiva is different from Balram. No, Balram is as good as Krishna. So Lord Shiva is understood. Lord Shiva is easily pleased. He easily gives material benediction. So demons usually go to worship him. So that is understood. But this case, the question is, Balram is as good as Krishna. So therefore, Balram cannot have some sort of material motivations or something like that. No? So therefore, that question is there.
No, but it is still not the material motivation of Shiva that he helps. It is just by the role that Shiva has taken up. Similarly, yes. Balram also, it is not Balram's, it's not about Balram or Shiva. It is about the people who go with different intentions. If he had gone to Krishna, by the way, Duryodhana, then the result would have been that he would have gotten purified and he would have turned around. But he doesn't because of that. And so that's where he goes to Balram.
Yes, so Balram accepts him as student and then teaches him. That's it. But then of course he shows affection also. Anyway, if there's an early loss. Anyways, if you can try to search Chaitanya Prabhu's article on that. Then we can just read it so that it becomes clear. Okay. I mean, maybe in the break time you can search. Then we can read it so that it becomes clear. Yeah, that's also. Otherwise, for everyone's benefit, we can read it here also. It's a short. Huh? Yes, Balram and Duryodhana. Okay, fine. So now we're going to the next chapter. Chapter 80.
Is he quoting some Acharya or it is his understanding?
Actually, I really
Because
don't
we
remember.
are interested in Acharya's understanding.
Correct. So I don't remember exactly what he has written.
Okay.
So better we see it and then we will see.
Prabhuji, also Radheshyam Hare Krishna. Also Radheshyam Prabhu has mentioned about this in his one PPT. He has quoted Garga Samhita.
Okay. You can show it.
And where he writes about that how Duryodhana has requested to worship, glorify Balram by 1000 names. I just opened the PPT where he tells that the reference from Garga Samhita tells that it was Duryodhana who asked the sage Pradvipak Muni to inform him about Balram's rasa dance in Vraja, as well as various prayers and procedures for worshipping Baldev and Balram's 1000 names. So that is one thing. And then it appears that Balram is affectionate to Duryodhana, but it is very difficult to understand that whom Guru is affectionate to and whom Guru is not affectionate to. It is not from the external considerations that we can make that whom Guru is liking. And ultimately, the Duryodhana's attitude was not pleasing to Balram. In his PPT, he has mentioned this line, he has not given any reference. And then he mentions that because he was not respectful to Krishna and Pandavas, actually Balram was not happy with him.
Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you. You got it?
Before this, His Grace Revtipati Prabhu took the section of Shamantak Mani, which was another inconceivable. So many things happened there. That Krishna and Balram are chasing behind. Who is that? Shatadhanva. And there, Krishna is showing that he is searching for the jewel, whereas he knows it is not there with him. So Balram. So there, Acharyas are writing that they are absorbed in the pastime.
Correct.
Krishna is not worrying who will think what about what I am doing.
Correct.
They are completely absorbed in the pastime, what they are performing. So even Balram, he's just showing Balram that I am searching, it's not there.
So that's what, not Naralila.
So in this also, what we are seeing, Balram, Krishna, so it is enhancing the Krishna's pastimes.
Correct. That is
so Balram is serving Krishna. Ekala Ishwar Krishna, Arasabha Bhritya.
Correct.
So they are all coming in Krishna to serve his pastimes.
Correct.
So that if that reflection is there, then everything, because they are absorbed in pastime. They are not worrying about what principle is to be followed, what people will think, and all.
So that is why everything cannot be understood by logic. Because if Krishna acts like God and he knows everything, just like the same pastime, the Shamantak jewel pastime, why Krishna has to do all that, go to the forest and find out where is the jewel, who has the jewel? If he's acting like God, he knows everything, he can tell everything. But then where that whole pastime only would not have been there.
So much of rasa there.
Exactly. Correct. So therefore, when we understand from Krishna's perspective, whatever Krishna does is basically for rasa only.
Exactly. He has nothing to do.
Yeah, he has no other business.
Example.
Yes.
Example.
His only business is his devotees. That is his only business. And so therefore, that is the main thing. And as far as we as sadhakas are concerned, we can learn many lessons from these pastimes.
Both things happen.
Yes, both things are, yes, both things happen simultaneously. So therefore, we find acharyas giving both perspectives. If we see only one perspective, if we see only the absolute perspective, then we have nothing to learn. Then all the
point is that 10th canto we are not learning. 9th cantos, everything is learnt. 10th canto is to relish.
No, but
that's the purpose of Shukdev Goswami.
No, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur also is giving what demons represent and all that.
Yes, I am not saying we should not learn, but I am saying purpose of Shukdev
that from
is to exhibit that. And what I feel is that if some one thing is that we leave it, inconceivable. But when we should leave? After studying the acharyas.
Correct.
Like this verse I want to say here, that because Krishna, everything is controversial. Many things. So Siddhanta Baliya Chitte Nakare Alas. Iha haite Krishna lage sudrna. So
Right.
Prabhupada, how he translate this verse?
Which one?
I'm just reading this Siddhanta Baliya Chitte.
Oh, that.
Prabhupada's translation is very amazing. He is saying a sincere student should not neglect the discussions of such conclusions. So before that he is saying, some say that Narayan is supreme, Krishna is coming from Narayan, some say this, they are all correct, he says. But then he writes this verse. So a sincere student should not neglect the discussions of such conclusions, comma, considering them controversial. Arey, controversial, chodo. Huh? We don't discuss. So Prabhupada is not saying like that. Actually, controversy is not there in the verse, but a sincere student should not
Yes,
neglect
so whatever
the
is possible to understand, we should definitely try.
Yeah, and that also means we can go to the level of Prabhupada and previous Acharya have written something.
Yes.
Beyond that, we can't do
Correct,
anything.
correct.
We can't speculate like that.
Yes, that's correct. So
And
therefore,
come with the conclusion that this is the conclusion.
whatever acharyas are saying, that only we can discuss. What else?
And I had Prabhupada writes, considering them controversial, comma, for such discussions, strengthen the mind.
Correct.
Thus one minds become attached to Shri Krishna. Like that he writes this.
Correct.
Because supremacy of Krishna will never come out unless we have this discussion.
Correct. That's true.
Prabhu, so the reading of the Bhagavatam itself is enough to purify a person. Correct? I mean, there is no other action that has to be done. Just listen properly. That's it.
Yes.
Unlike in yoga or any other activity, you have to act and you have to do something. In karma, you have to act. But here, just by Shushuru Shubhis Tatshanat, right?
Yes,
that's
correct.
That's fine.
Yes, Basim. Okay, read. This is shared with them, no? They shared online? Okay, fine. Okay.
Why was Balram affectionate to Duryodhana? Madhavananda Das. A slightly fresh edit of an article I wrote few years ago. If we contemplate on the pastimes of Krishna's beloved elder brother, a relevant question arises. Why did Balram give so much favor to demoniac Duryodhana? Duryodhana was not a devotee of Krishna. From his childhood, he hated Krishna's pure devotees, the Pandavas, and tried in various ways to kill them. When Yudhishthir asked Krishna to go to Hastinapur to deliver a peace message on behalf of Pandavas, Duryodhana grossly disrespected Krishna and even tried to capture him. In spite of all these offenses to both Krishna and his pure devotees, Duryodhana is famous as a great disciple of Balaram. Consider, Balaram stayed for several years in Mithila just to give association to Duryodhana and train him in the art of fighting with a club. Balaram wanted to give his sister Subhadra in marriage to Duryodhana. Duryodhana considered Balaram the Supreme Lord. He addressed him as a Bhagavan. It was Duryodhana who asked the sage Pradvipak Muni to inform him about Balram's Rasa dance in Braja, as well as various prayers and procedures for worshipping Baladev and Balram's 1,000 names. One of the Balram's names is Duryodhana Guru, the Guru of Duryodhana. Balaram went to Kurukshetra to stop the fighting between Bhimasena and Duryodhana. When he saw that it was Krishna's will that they fight, he left, as he had so much affection for both Bhima and Duryodhana that it was too painful for him to see them fight. When Bhima killed Duryodhana, Balaram was furious and left. How do we reconcile the fact that Duryodhana was very dear to Balaram? There may be many answers to this question, but we can conclude that although Duryodhana looked like he was very close, ultimately his attitude was not pleasing to Balaram. There are many lessons that we can see from this. First, it's not always easy to see who is really close to Guru. By the Apara Vichara, the apparent consideration, it appeared that both Banasura and Ravan pleased Mahadev Shiva and got his mercy. But our acharyas have described that they only got Sakapata Kripa, mercy with cheating. They got some wealth, fame, and position. They did not get the Nishkapata Kripa, mercy without cheating, or Krishna Prema. In the same way, although it apparently looked like Duryodhana was close to the Lord Balram, internally he was far away from the Lord. Secondly, although Duryodhana had some faith in Balram, he did not have faith in Krishna or Pandavas. In the same way, sometimes a disciple may be full of enthusiasm for his or her guru, but may neglect or offend other Vaishnavas, or like Duryodhana. Some disciples may express devotion for their guru, but they may not be interested in worshipping Krishna or chanting Krishna Nama. Although it may appear that such devotees are very close to their guru and they may even get some big position, they do not get same quality of mercy that a surrendered disciple receives. To explore a third lesson from relationship between Balram and Duryodhana, we had to understand Duryodhana's identity. The Gargava Samhita describes him as an Amsha or partial expansion of Kali. Duryodhana Kalir Amsho. Although externally he looked like a big follower of his guru, in actuality Duryodhana was a servant and follower of Kali, not his guru Lord Balram. He had his own separate agenda from the Lord, an agenda that ultimately caused pain and death for millions of persons. Regarding such duplicity, Thakur Bhaktivinoda states in his Baula Sangita, Song 6, Eto Eka Kalir Chela Mata Neda Kapni Para Tilak Nake Galer Mala. Here is a disciple of Kali Yuga. He has a shaved head, wears coupings, marks his forehead with tilak, and keeps tulsi beads around his neck. In 1995 lecture in Bhubaneswar, Gaur Govind Maharaj warned the devotees that to really have the association of Guru, one must give up ulterior motives and false displays of devotion and must genuinely surrender. We are only pretending that we have done Atmanivedana, that we have surrendered, but we have not really surrendered. We have only been pretending for so many years, and also for so many years to come in the future. As long as we continue to act artificially, we cannot approach the Guru, Sadhu, or Vaishnava. We cannot get their mercy at all, and therefore we cannot see their real form. We will be cheated. We will get all external things.
Okay, fine. Okay, I think so that's enough discussion on
that. When we're talking about Balramji and Duryodhana's relationship, it's almost, at least to me, sounds similar to Arjuna's relationship with Dronacharya. In other words, Balramji was he taught skill to Duryodhana as much as Dronacharya taught skill to Arjuna. But when we talk about Guru relationship in our context, what we understand, that relates to Arjuna and Krishna, Guru-disciple relationship. So in those days, you can be taught in different skills by different teachers, all would be called as Guru.
Correct.
So this background is needed not to map our Guru-disciple relationship in context with Duryodhana and
Right.
Balram.
So that's not a spiritual guru, that's like a teacher.
And from that point of view, Balramji having affection for his student because he taught a skill, and Duryodhana having an affection, a sense of gratitude towards Balramji, as much as he may have for Dronacharya.
Correct. That's true.
That's
it's as far as the skill is concerned.
It's a different thing. Then,
Correct. Yeah, it's not a spiritual relationship. That's
consider this with Balram, because Balram is not a normal person; he's an absolute person.
See, there's no point in.
No, I'm just putting. I don't know about this, but just any connection with Balram is not so joke. He will be purified.
Correct. He'll be purified. That is
not like Krishna's relationship.
Correct. That is correct. He'll be purified. That point is agreed. Yes, correct. Okay, fine. Now we are going to Sudama. 80th chapter. So how many times you must have read about Sudama?
So which sound should be little more clear.
Sound is clear.
Okay. Okay, fine. So we're going to the 80th chapter. Brahmana Sudama visits Lord Krishna. Shri Raju Uvacha Bhagavanyani Chanyani Mukundasya Mahatmanaha Viryanyananta Viryasya Shrotumichami He Prabho. King Parishit said, My Lord, O Master, I wish to hear about other valorous deeds performed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Mukunda, whose valor is unlimited. So, Shrotumichami. He's very eager to hear more pastimes of the Lord. So we already discussed about this eagerness for hearing. Second verse. Kono shrutva sakrit brahman uttama shloka satkataha virameta visheshogyo vishanna kama marganai. O Brahmana, how could anyone who knows the essence of life and is disgusted with endeavoring for sense gratification give up the transcendental topics of Lord Uttama Shloka after hearing them repeatedly? Please read the purport.
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments herein that we see many persons who, even after hearing the topics of Lord repeatedly, give up their spiritual dedication. The Acharya replies that the word Visheshagnya is therefore significant here. Those who have actually understood the essence of life do not give up Krishna consciousness. A further qualification is to be Vishanna Kama Marga Nahi, disgusted with material sense gratification. These two qualities are complementary. One who has experienced the real taste of Krishna consciousness automatically becomes disgusted with the inferior taste of material pleasure. Such a genuine hearer of the topics of Krishna cannot give up hearing about Lord's fascinating pastimes.
Okay. So here, Parikshit Maharaj is speaking this verse. So Parikshit Maharaj is saying that how could anyone who knows essence of life and disgusted with endeavoring for sense gratification? So these two qualifications are required. So one who knows the essence and who is Vishanna Kama Marganai. So if these two qualifications are there, then how can he give up Uttama Shloka Satkatha after hearing them repeatedly? So a few points for discussion here. So first of all, one should know what is the essence. So in that article by Gauragovind Maharaj, he talks about this essence, how a devotee must know the essence. He must not mistake the sat for the asat. That all he says. In that connection, he tells that story. I don't know if you've heard the story of the Haritaki and Elaichi. You read it, right? You want to tell? You know the story? Okay, fine. Okay. Okay, so fine. So a disciple invites his guru for prasad, and then after the prasad, the disciple wants to give some digestive. So the guru says, okay, you can give some haritaki. So the guru tells him, remove the unnecessary portion, whatever is it, and then you give the necessary portion. So now Gauragovind Maharaj says, so this disciple was a speculator. So instead of, he didn't know. So if one does not know, one should ask, no? But he does not ask, he speculates on what is necessary and what is not necessary. So he thinks that the chilka, the cover is usually to be thrown off. So he removes the skin portion and the seeds he puts on a plate, nicely decorates the plate and brings in front of the guru. Guru says, what is this? Haritaki. What is this? Only seeds? Useless fellow, you don't understand. Haritaki, the most important portion is the covering, the skin. So the disciple says, okay. Sorry. Next time I'll be careful. So next day again, he offers the prasad. Next day, he thinks of changing the menu. So this time, he thinks of offering elaichi. But he has learned the lesson. The lesson is, chilka is to be kept, middle portion is to be thrown. So that's what he does. So he keeps the chilka of the elaichi, and the middle portion he throws. And so all the chilkas of the elaichi he puts on a plate, nicely decorates, brings to the guru. And the guru, he picks up one of them and he says, "Arey, kya beech mein khali hai? Kuch nahi hai isme. What is this?" Guru Maharaj, yesterday you only told. Whatever is in the middle is to be thrown, only chilka is to be kept. So the guru is thinking, "Arey, you're such a fool, you don't understand what is the essence." So he tells the story to make this point. One should know what is the essence and one should not speculate. So this is an important point, and that is in a practice of devotional service also we can get diverted, deviated by so many other things which may not be the essence. So therefore, it's very important that we be fixed in the essence. Otherwise, these days especially, so many things to divert one's attention. So many other topics, so many other lectures, so many other activities, so many things divert the attention of devotees, as a result of which devotees leave the ashram, leave Krishna consciousness, join some other organization. So many things are happening. This only because one does not understand what is the essence. As we are reading, the essence is to please Guru and Krishna. That is the essence. The essence is pure devotional service. So when one understands the essence and then one becomes disgusted with material sense gratification, then he can never give up. He can never give up the Uttama Shloka Katha. After hearing them repeatedly. So therefore, in this purport, it's mentioned that these two qualities, that is knowing the essence and being disgusted with sense gratification, are complementary. Why they're complementary? Because one who knows the essence will also be disgusted with sense gratification. So now he makes another important point. One who has experienced the real taste of Krishna consciousness automatically becomes disgusted with the inferior taste of material pleasure. So this is param drishva nivartate. So param drishva nivartate, as we all drishva means what? Drishva means what?
To see.
Drishva means
to see the ends.
That's correct. Srila Prabhupada's translation of Drishtva is experience. Experience. Param Drishtva. It is an experience. And so, the important thing is, that's what is being said over here, one who has experienced the real taste of Krishna consciousness. You see it? One who has experienced the real taste of Krishna consciousness. So many times devotees also feel, okay, first I should get the higher taste, then it will become easy for me to practice Krishna consciousness. But Krishna's formula is not that. Krishna's formula is, first practice steadily, then I'll give taste. In the 9 steps of pure devotional service, what comes before Ruchi? Yes, Nishtha. First Nishtha, then Ruchi. So what is required is, Nishtha means what? Steady practice. So the steady practice is what is required. When Krishna is pleased with the steady practice, then he awards the Ruchi. Then he awards the higher taste. That is the price one has to pay to get the higher taste. It is not going to come automatically. So therefore, one has to endeavor to become more and more Krishna conscious, steadily practicing Krishna consciousness as an austerity. One has to do that. So see, if one gets taste, then it is easy to practice, no? Then is it austerity? No, it is not. Then it's very easy. Then where is the austerity? There's no austerity. So therefore Krishna says, no, first you have to perform the austerity of practicing even if there is no taste. Even though there is no taste, you have to practice steadily. Even though one is not feeling like chanting, one has to chant. Even though one is not feeling like coming for Mangalarti, one should come. Even though one is not feeling like attending class, one should attend sincerely and hear attentively. When one goes through that austerity, then Krishna awards the taste. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada writes in that purport to Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 59th verse. Srila Prabhupada ends that purport by saying, for one who is actually Krishna conscious, everything material appears to be dead, pale things. But the important point is what? Actually Krishna conscious. So this is the endeavor on our part. So the endeavor on our part is how to please Krishna at all times. Be Krishna conscious. The more we make that endeavor, Krishna is pleased, then he awards the higher taste, which is an experience. It is an experience. One relishes the practice of devotional service. Otherwise, if one does not get the higher taste, then what will happen? Then after some time, one will think, oh, this Krishna consciousness is boring. Then one will not have the taste to chant the holy names, to hear Krishna Katha, to perform services. The enthusiasm will come down. So, even Krishna Katha, same thing. So there's one purport, maybe somebody can search the reference, but there's one purport where Srila Prabhupada writes, even if one hears Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam thousands and thousands of times, still one will find the matter ever fresh. Not 5 times, not 10 times, thousands and thousands of times. But in order to feel that freshness in our practices of devotional service, who awards that freshness? Yes. So you can open one purport. We did refer to this quite a few times, but in the context of the discussion, we can read it again. 4th canto, 30th chapter, verse 20. So if we don't experience this higher taste, then there will always be a hankering for something new, something titillating, something should be there. Otherwise, one feels just bored and drained out. Okay, read verse, translation, and purport. Give somebody else a chance, no?
Online?
Online, somebody wants to read. Okay, read online.
नव्यवदृढये यज्ञो ब्रह्मवादिभिः न मुह्यन्ति न शोचन्ति न रिष्यन्ति यतो गता. Always engaging in the activities of devotional service, devotees feel ever increasingly fresh and new in all their activities. The all-knower, the super soul within the heart of the devotee, makes everything increasingly fresh. This is known as the Brahman position by the advocates of the absolute truth. In such a liberated stage, Brahma Bhuta, one is never bewildered. nor does one lament or become unnecessarily jubilant. This is due to the Brahma Bhuta situation. Purport: a devotee is inspired by the super soul within the heart to advance in devotional service in a variety of ways. The devotee does not feel hackneyed or stereotyped, nor does he feel that he is in a stagnant position. In the material world, if one engages in chanting a material name, he will feel tired after chanting a few times. However, one can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra all day and night and never feel tired. As chanting is increased, it will come out new and fresh. Rupa Goswami said that if he could somehow get millions of years in tongues, then he could relish spiritual bliss by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. There is really nothing uninspiring for a highly advanced devotee. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that He is situated in everyone's heart and that He helps the living entity forget and remember. By the grace of the Lord, the devotee gets inspiration. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yena mama upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. As stated, Kushala Karmanam, those engaged in auspicious activities in devotional service are guided by the super soul, described in this verse as Gya, one who knows everything, past, present, and future. The super soul gives instructions to the sincere, unalloyed devotee on how he can progress more and more in approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Jiva Goswami in this connection says that the super soul, the plenary expansion of the personality of Godhead, exists in everyone's heart, but in the heart of the devotee, he reveals himself as ever increasingly new. Being inspired by him, the devotee experiences increased transcendental bliss in the execution of his devotional service.
So what is the qualification on the part of the devotee to get that inspiration?
So it boils down to faith.
No, what is Prabhupada written in the purport?
Constantly engaging.
No, what's Prabhupada written in the purport? Yeah, say that.
Instruction to the sincere, unalloyed devotee on how he can progress more and more in approaching Supreme Personality.
Yes, so that's the qualification. Sincere, unalloyed devotee. So the more we are practicing unalloyed devotional service sincerely, Krishna is pleased, and then Krishna reveals himself. When Krishna reveals himself, then Krishna is never old, stale, hackneyed. He is ever fresh. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada has written, there is nothing uninspiring for a highly advanced devotee. Because Krishna is always revealing himself as ever fresh. The same darshan, the same purport, the same holy name, everything could be same, but still ever fresh. So it all depends upon the quality of devotional service that we are practicing. So if we practice that sincere, unalloyed devotional service, then Krishna reveals himself as ever fresh. Then there is no question of boredom, feeling hackneyed, and wanting every time something new. Now all those problems will go away when we practice sincere, unalloyed devotional service. Okay, so therefore, then one will understand the essence. When one understands the essence, one will get the higher taste. When one gets the higher taste, then one will be disgusted with everything material, and that is how one can progress in devotional service. And that's what Parikshit Maharaj is saying over here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Time for break. Hare Krishna. So when are we meeting again? What 36? Okay, be a little more precise. 12:31 p.m. Hare Krishna. one may give up the Shravanam and Kirtanam is because of offenses. So when one commits offenses, then one loses the taste for Shravanam and Kirtanam, and then when one loses the taste, one cannot continue. So that is also one major factor why one may give up the hearing. So here Vishwanath Chakravarti also says the Jnanis fixed on the impersonal Brahman give up those topics because they have some ulterior motive in hearing and chanting. So their motive is simply liberation. So once they get the liberation, then they give up the hearing and chanting. So these are different reasons why one, even after hearing for asakrit for a very long time, may give up the hearing and chanting. So therefore, one has to be, as we were discussing yesterday, it is a science. Krishna consciousness is a science. So one has to take into consideration all the different factors. Whatever the principle is, anukulyasa sankalpa, pratikulyasa varjana. Whatever is favorable for our practices in Krishna, we should accept. What is unfavorable, we have to bridge. And we have to be extremely careful in all these aspects. It's a science. So one cannot play around thinking that, no, I will do some nonsense and still nothing will happen to me. No, it doesn't work that way. It's all perfect. So therefore, at every point of time, each one has to analyze. Now, we cannot expect that all the time somebody else will be there to be behind us and tell us what to do, what not to do. No. After some years, not only after some years, right from the beginning, ultimately, we have to be accountable to oneself. And each one has to understand what is favorable, what is unfavorable, and do accordingly. We are discussing the principles, but as far as practice is concerned, it's up to every one of us. Okay. Text 3. Savāgyaya tasya gunan grinite karau cha tatkarma karau manascha smared vasantam stirajangameshu shrinoti tatpunya katha sakarnaha. Actual speech is that which describes the qualities of the Lord. Real hands are those that work for Him. A true mind is that which always remembers Him, dwelling within everything, moving and non-moving. And actual ears are those that listen to sanctifying topics about Him. Purport.
While continuing from the previous verse to glorify the sense of hearing dedicated to the Lord, King Parikshit mentions the other senses also, so that we gain a complete picture of Krishna consciousness. Here he declares that without any connection to Krishna, the Supreme Lord, all the organs of the body become useless. A similar statement is made by Shaunak Rishi in the second canto, 3rd chapter, verse 20 to 24. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti mentions that the senses should work together in Krishna consciousness. In other words, whatever the eyes or the ears experience, the mind should simply remember Krishna, who is within all things.
Yeah, so this in the second canto, this Shaunak Rishi discusses this. And he gives various analogies. Ears not used in the Lord's service compared to snake holes. Eyes, plumes of the peacock feather. Then tongue, yes, frogs croaking. Also asati, unchaste wife, or unchaste tongue. Hands, yes, hands of a dead body. Legs,
like a trunk of
yes, tree trunks. Head which does not bow down,
like weight while
huge burden. So same point is making over here. So ultimately all the senses have to be used in the Lord's service. Same thing he says in the 4th verse. Tree trunks, tree trunks. Shirastu tasyo bhayalingamanamet tadeva yat pashyati tadhi chakshu angani vishno ratatajjananam padodakam yani bhajanti nityam. An actual head is one that bows down to the Lord in His manifestations among the moving and non-moving creatures. Real eyes are those that see only the Lord. Actual limbs are those which regularly honor the water that has bathed the Lord's feet or those of His devotees. So in this way, Parikshit Maharaj is expressing his great eagerness to hear other pastimes of the Lord. Now Sutta Goswami is saying, Sutta Goswami said, thus questioned by King Vishnurata, the powerful sage Badarayani replied, his heart fully absorbed in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev. And now Shukdev Goswami begins to describe about Sudama. Shri Shuka Uvacha Krishnasyasid Sakha Kashid Brahmano Brahmavittamaha Virakta Indriyarteshu Prashantatma Jitendriyaha. Shukdev Goswami said, Lord Krishna had a certain Brahmana friend named Sudama. Of course, Sudama is not in the verse, but it's understood. Who was most learned in Vedic knowledge and detached from all sense enjoyment. So he was Brahma Vittamaha and Virakta Indriyarteshu. So these were the two qualifications of Sudama. Furthermore, his mind was peaceful and his senses subdued. Take 7. Yadrachayopapannena vardamano grihashrami tasya bharya kuchelasya kshutkshama cha tatha vidha. Living as a householder, he maintained himself with whatever came of its own accord. The wife of that poorly dressed Brahmana suffered along with him and was emaciated from hunger. Purport. Sudama's chaste wife was also poorly dressed, and whatever food she obtained, she gave to her husband. Thus she remained fatigued from hunger. Okay. So here, an important quality of Sudama, of course, from the last verse and this verse, total 3 qualities of Sudama have been mentioned. What are they? One is Brahma Vittama. He knew about Vedic knowledge. Virakta Indriyarteshu. Yes. Prashanta Jitendriya. Jitendriya, of course, Virakta Indriya, that's little similar. And in the 7th verse, yes, Yadrichaya Upapannena. He was satisfied with what came of its own accord. So, why is this an important quality especially for a Brahmana? So from this qualities, we can see that how he was basically satisfied with whatever came of its own accord. He was not hankering for too many things. So why do you think this is an important qualification for a Brahmana? Yes, Sachin. Mic de do wahan pe.
So when satisfaction is there for whatever it comes, then time is saved, energy is saved, and mind is peaceful. So we can focus on Brahman. Actually, that is the purpose of Brahmana.
Okay, good. Purpose of Brahman is to focus on Brahman. So therefore, if one is satisfied, one can focus. Okay, good point. Manoj.
One is tapomana samuchate mana prasada somyatva. Krishna says that should be done. Second thing, freedom from envy and competition.
Okay, so if one is not hankering for too many things, one becomes free from envy, competition. And how does that help?
Oh, now you can do your bhakti. Otherwise, oftentimes, vaivasayatmika buddhi eka guru nandana. Bahushaka, otherwise bahushaka.
Correct. Okay, good point. Somebody else? Okay.
In the Bhagavatam, there is verse that satisfaction is compared to a gumboot by which one can walk on all the thorns and pebbles that come in the life, all the obstacles. So when somebody is satisfied, no matter what obstacle comes, he will just pass through.
Where is this?
Yes, there is verse, na Broji? That thorns and pebbles.
Oh, this is Forest of Metilanjam.
Sharkar, this one, this.
Forest of Metilanjam.
Gumboot of satisfaction.
Oh. Okay, good.
Garang Darshan to cover.
One teacher is one very exemplary for others. One who is a Brahmana is a teacher for Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Yadyad acharati shrestha tattadeva tarojana sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anvarti. So Brahmana teaches by goodness is more powerful than passion. So Brahmana practices goodness and try to teach for the passionate Kshatriyas.
Okay, fine. So therefore that's an important quality. Okay, good.
Culturally speaking, Brahmana is actually actually well-wishing activities for everyone else. So if he is having hankering and lamentation, then it's self-absorption. So he cannot think of others because they are all having problem because of these two things. So actually he can do welfare when he is satisfied.
Okay, good
Without
point.
that.
Yes, if he is self-absorbed, then he cannot help others. Okay, good point. Anybody else?
Others or Lord, as he said, Brahman.
Anything else?
Lord is akinchana vrittaya. So Brahmana voluntarily he accepts this austerity, that he can become rich also, but he understands that this is not wanted by in spiritual life. So he understands this is a real wealth of spiritual life is to practice devotional service and become free from all material hankerings and acculates or whatever.
But I think so I differ from you on this point. Because what about Rupa Goswami's Siddhanta of Yukta Vairagya?
Correct. Rupa Goswami's Siddhanta is that the shloka
Yukta
is,
Vairagya. Anasaktasya
Vishyan Yatharam Upayunjita. So first he should receive, then only he can spend it. But he is not receiving only anything.
No. We are talking about general principles. We are not talking about Sudama yet. We are talking about general principles. So you are saying that Brahmana, he is akinchana because then that is pleasing to the Lord. But then so he can use everything.
So there are two things are there. Akinchan vittaya means one has all the possession, but he is detached for sense enjoyment. He uses it for the purpose of the Lord or service of the Lord. Now here Sudama or whatever, the Brahmana, he by nature, generally Brahmanas are they like austerity because they have to cultivate the good qualities. And they are ideal people, as Prabhuji said. So all the Varnas, they also get inspiration from Brahmanas to live a simple life. So therefore, they take this, they choose this part to remain austere and then perform their duties, rather than becoming rich and try to utilize those opportunities. Even that also Brahmanas are there. Like in Jagannath Puri, there's so many Brahmanas, they're very rich, but they are also serving the Lord. So both type of Brahmanas are there. So this also, that also. Now Sudama has a nature of remaining a renunciate, totally penniless beggar, and he wants to serve the Lord in that way.
Okay, fine. Online, any answers?
Yeah, Prabhu, Brahmana, basically Brahma Janati iti Brahmana, his duty, his prescribed duty is also not to be dependent on anyone except the Lord. And he is doing that. Sudama is exactly executing those duties, not to be dependent on any external factors except the Lord. And that's why whatever comes, is happy with. But some Brahmanas may be rich by, as Arjuneshwar Prabhu also said, whatever comes by its own accord, he is willing to accept, otherwise he just lets go. He does not hanker, he does not desire. So that desirelessness is there in a Brahmana, and then a Brahmana lives a life to be like a what do you call a light amongst darkness, wherein just based on the faith on the words of the Lord, it's a beautiful living, and he's surviving, wherein others are exactly living in the opposite direction. So he becomes a source of inspiration.
Okay, good. Okay, fine. So now I have a question. So we all know the story of Sanatana Goswami in the touchstone, right? We all know, right? So where did he keep the touchstone? Garbage. So why he kept in the garbage? That's exactly my question. He could have used the wealth to make to build temples and to expand preaching, so many things.
Prabhupada writes that he is teaching to neophytes.
What is teaching?
He's teaching that for the advanced devotee, he can have all the opulence and use in the service of the Lord. But for neophyte, they have to directly follow, means they should not be attached to material opulence. First, they should practice vairagya. Then they can have yukta vairagya.
Okay. Okay. So we'll read Prabhupada's statement as it is. So there Srila Prabhupada writes, and with the reference is 1st Canto, 8th chapter, text 27. So Prabhupada gives the whole story, and at the end of the story, Srila Prabhupada writes that Sanatana Goswami is teaching this just to set an example for all of us, because unless one comes to the point of seeing matter as spirit, one should always distinguish between spirit and matter. Correct? नीचे जाओ, नीचे जाओ. Nice story. So he tells the whole story. Go down, go down. See that. This specific example, read this specific example.
This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees, just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relationship with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision.
Yes. So, unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relation with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. So that is why, for the neophyte devotee, material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. So therefore, so sometimes the principle of Yukta Vairagya could be misused. And therefore in the Nectar of Devotion, chapter 14, after Srila Prabhupada describes everything about Yukta Vairagya, then Srila Prabhupada writes, therefore this principle of Yukta Vairagya must be practiced under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. Because otherwise, we see so many cases where somebody thinks, okay, I can use this in Krishna's service, but one may misuse it because one is not able to see this as spiritual. So if one is not able to see something as spiritual, then in the name of Yukta Vairagya, one may land up using it for sense gratification. Therefore, one must have the adhikar. And whether one has the adhikar or not, that is not to be understood from one's own mind, but from spiritual authorities. So that is why Sanatana Goswami set that example through that pastime. Otherwise, he could have used everything in Krishna's service. But anyways, the point is, as Prabhupada is writing there, material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Okay. So,
one question.
We'll just complete this discussion. So, two more references we would like to give. So as we know, Vyasadeva was dissatisfied. Correct? And then Narad Muni came and told him the cause of this. So in that context, Srila Prabhupada writes again a very beautiful and important statement. You can open 1st Canto, 4th chapter, text 27. One must be satisfied at heart in order to attain perfection. And that satisfaction has to be searched out beyond matter. Got it? Yes. Perfection is never attained until one is satisfied at heart. And that perfection has to be, that satisfaction of heart has to be searched out beyond matter. So unless one is satisfied, there cannot be perfection, because as all of you have already told so many wonderful points. So if one is not satisfied, the mind is going to be all over the place, trying to get this, then one cannot be fixed. Vyavasatmika buddhi cannot happen. And that satisfaction has to be beyond matter. It cannot be on the material platform. And so therefore, on the material platform, if we are hankering for so many things, gross or subtle, then there cannot be satisfaction. And if there is no satisfaction, there cannot be perfection, because one cannot focus on the essence, as we were discussing. So in that connection, we can also refer to the wonderful words of Lord Vamandev to Bali Maharaj. So this comes in the 8th canto, 14th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. Text number 25. मैं भी खोल रहा हूँ, देखता हूँ exactly क्या है. 19 over. Yes, 8, 19, 25. क्या है वो? So here also same word is coming. Yadrichayo papannena. Material existence causes discontent in regard to fulfilling one's lusty desires and achieving more and more money. This is the cause for continuation of material existence, which is full of repeated birth and death. But one who is satisfied by that which is obtained by destiny is fit for liberation from this material existence. In this series of verses, you find this Yadrichya coming again and again. Now, the next verse is what is very important, especially for the Vipras, Brahmanas. Let's recite. Yadricha labhatustasya tejo viprasya vardhate tat prashamyatya santoshat ambhaseva shushukshani. Read the translation and purport.
A Brahmana who is satisfied with whatever is providentially obtained is increasingly enlightened with the spiritual power. But the spiritual potency of a dissatisfied Brahmana decreases as fire diminishes in potency when water is sprinkled upon it.
Yes. So, yadricha labha tushtasya, if one is satisfied, what will happen? Tejo viprasya vardhate. The spiritual potency of the Brahmana will increase because he is satisfied materially, then he can focus on spiritual life. But if he is not satisfied, asantoshat, then what happens? It reduces. The spiritual potency reduces, just like pouring water on fire. Because one can't focus. One can't focus. So therefore, very important for Brahmanas to be materially satisfied, not spiritually. See, what is the translation? What is the translation Prabhupada is giving? Spiritual potency. Increasingly enlightened with spiritual power, but spiritual potency of a dissatisfied Brahmana, because he is not able to focus on spiritual life. That is the point. Because he is not able to focus on the spiritual life, therefore the spiritual potency reduces. So if one does not focus, how one will get that spiritual potency? So one has to focus. Okay, you can use that verse also.
Surely he is not fixed up in a spiritual platform. That can be there. Otherwise, after fixing on spiritual platform, no spiritual potential should decrease.
Okay, I'll ask you another question. What happens when one commits Vaishnava aparadha?
That is like hidden, like covered.
So, but then Mahaprabhu, what example is giving? What analogy?
Hathi Mata aparadha.
Hathi Mata. What the Hathi does?
It uproots,
breaks it, throws it. Then, how do you explain?
That is example, but
अरे महाप्रभु ऐसे ही दे दिया, ऐसे ही थोड़ा मजाक के लिए दे दिया। हाँ, थोड़ा हाथी।
no, we have heard that if it is always covered, it's never uprooted, Prabhuji.
Then you have to explain the analogy. You cannot say Mahaprabhu is giving a useless analogy.
No.
This is Mahaprabhu's analogy, Baba. It is not mine. It is not yours. It is not even some acharyas. This is directly Supreme Lord giving analogy. So you have to reconcile. नहीं आप बोलिए, कुछ तो बोलिए अभी आप तो नया टॉपिक ला लिया अभी बीच में।
Replant that.
हाँ, replant. बोलो what is your replantation? Wait, no, let him say. बोलो, कुछ तो बोलो. What is your understanding? This is Bhakti Vedanta class.
Actually, any Vaishnava aparadha happens, he has to beg forgiveness from that Vaishnava.
Correct.
And then if the Vaishnava forgives, then that offense is vanquished actually.
That is correct. But what is the understanding of the uprooting of the Bhakti Lata?
I think its taste will go away. That is, but Bhakti will not finish it. Prabhupada also mentioned, Neha Vikramana Swasti.
Correct. That is also Krishna only saying.
So means he will be like, I have heard example like a millionaire son is there, but the key has been lost. He cannot open the lock of the treasury. The password has been lost. Means he will what you're saying is spiritual potency. He will lose it.
Okay, good. But good points. Somebody wants to expand a little more.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, go ahead. Who's speaking now, please?
Example.
Who's speaking, please? Vanmali Gavanta. हाँ, बोलो.
Am I audible?
Yes.
I had once asked Rajesham Prabhu that in NOD it is written that one completely
Go a little louder, please.
One completely loses the bhakti shakti when one does offenses. So in NOD one verse was telling, I had heard, and then he also told yes. Then I was telling that as such we understand that bhakti credits are undeletable files. So how to reconcile this? So he was explaining me that the bhakti credits are gone. That means what is written in NOD, that for a long period of time the person loses the taste, or he goes out of the association, and he doesn't lose it, but he goes out for a long time, so much so that this is as good as a permanent loss. So to emphasize the deadliness of this offense, NOD sometimes writes like this so that the practicing devotee is very much aware and doesn't do.
No, this is not NOD writing. This is Mahaprabhu directly giving.
Yes.
But anyways, your point is perfectly correct. Your point is perfectly correct. Yes. Anybody else wants to say something?
I mean, almost on the same line, in terms of when we say, in bhakti, you cannot be stagnant. Either you should be progressing or you're digressing. In other words, you're getting distracted, which means you're getting lost for a while. And when you resume this life, next life, again, it depends on. But yes, once bhakti has started, there's no end to it. But are you progressing? That's the question. So in terms of this particular point, if you're not satisfied, then your spiritual potency is reducing, which means your material hankerings are increasing. And now when material hankerings are increasing, it's just but obvious, you're getting more distracted. Your old tastes and vasanas are resurfacing. And of course, then your spiritual potency cannot be the same as it was before, because your sadhana is not the same. And as we say, all aparadh begins because of bad association. Now, because of that, you'll take bad association. So it all begins, the whole thing begins like that.
Okay, good points. Thank you. Yes,
in that context, is it Mahaprabhu is saying Mahat Aparadh? Means are it just because what is important is whom offense is always dangerous, but the most dangerous is to offend a very advanced person. So the uprooting happens by that. So I am just wanting to ask what Mahaprabhu is referring to. I don't remember reading.
Okay.
Just a Vaishnava Aparadh.
Open CC Madhya Leela, 19th chapter.
Because Vishwanath writes this in 4 Kumaras when they offended Jai Vijay. So their rasa went down. So there he is quoting that
Rup Goswami is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu.
19th chapter.
That is Mahat Aparad.
19th chapter, text 160. I think so you have to go before. Previous one, previous verse. Yeah. Here only. Okay. The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. Okay, go to the next one. Before. Sometimes unwanted creepers. Okay, go a little before then. Let's see. 56. Yes, here it is. Yes. Yadi Vaishnava Aparad Ute Hati Mata Upade Va Chinde Tara Suki Yaya Pata. If the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava, while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. So in any case,
Interesting, the leaves are dried up, the seed is there.
Leaves are dried up because
The seed is still there.
No, it's uprooted, na. If a plant is uprooted, then there is no nutrition. So therefore the leaves also dry up. Very scientific example. Okay. So in any case, so Vishwanath Thakur explains this in detail in the Madhuri Kadambini. And so there he explains that basically what happens is that because of the offense, the Bhakti Devi becomes very upset. And when Bhakti Devi becomes upset, she withdraws the grace. And then when she withdraws the grace, then everything spiritual appears to be material. That's what happens. The Lord's holy name, pastimes, and the deities, the Vaishnavas, everything spiritual starts appearing material. So when one has a material perception towards all these things, then obviously where is the taste? No taste. One develops a whole material outlook. And when there is no taste, then how can one practice? So, of course, again, all those factors may be taken into consideration. Who is the Vaishnava? What is the gravity of the offense? All those factors do come into play. But then, in any case, if it is a serious offense, then he loses all taste and practically the taste comes to nil. It may come down to nil. And then when it comes down to nil, then he has to take up the rectificatory measures. He gives the analogy of how a person has a disease, he has fever, then the appetite goes down completely. So I personally had experience during COVID, zero appetite. And so then as one is taking the medicine, then gradually the appetite increases. As one is taking the medicine, gradually the appetite increases. So similarly, when after the offense, when one takes up the rectificatory measures, that is begging for forgiveness, serving the Vaishnavas, and so when those rectificatory measures are taken up and then one attracts the grace of the Vaishnavas, then gradually the taste increases. And so now how much time that is going to take depends. But why it is said that it is totally uprooted? Because the taste to practice devotional service can come down to zero. Then once it is as good as starting his devotional service fresh, beginning from Adav Shraddha, Sadhusang, gradually it will increase. But because of his previous devotional credits, then at least it won't take such a long time. Normally, it may take lifetimes of accumulated Agyat Sukruti before one actually comes to devotional service. But in this case, it may not take so much time because of his previous devotional credits. So those devotional credits are not lost. Because of that, he has some benefit of the previous devotional credits. But still, it may actually be as if he's starting a fresh devotional life. And that is why Mahaprabhu is giving this analogy of uprooting. So, but in any case, so to the degree one is dissatisfied and one has material hankerings, and then one does not have good spiritual practices because of those material hankerings, then the spiritual potency will definitely reduce because his taste to practice spiritual activities reduces. That is what reduces the taste. We are dependent on the taste, right? It's all based upon the grace. The grace gives the taste. Because we are not getting some tangible material benefits here. Outside world, a person, whatever he does, why he does? He's getting tangible material benefits, right? He gets salary, he does some work. But here, if you chant 16 rounds, anybody gets salary for chanting 16 rounds? No, nobody gets salary. Then most of our spiritual practices is based upon our interest in those practices. And that interest only comes by grace. That is why we were discussing the point yesterday or day before also, that our spiritual practices are so much dependent on grace. Okay, to substantiate this point, let's see something. Open first canto, second chapter, text 17. On the path of bhakti, grace is very important. That is what distinguishes the path of bhakti from all other paths. Go to the third paragraph of the purport. Read the third and fourth paragraphs of the purport. This is a famous verse we all know. Shrimatam Swakata Krishna Punach.
One cannot enter into the kingdom of God unless one is perfectly cleared of all sins. The material sins are products of our desires to lord it over material nature.
So here we're talking about these only, right? The dissatisfied Brahmana means what? He has material sins. That is the dissatisfied Brahmana. Okay.
It is very difficult to get rid of such desires. Women and wealth are very difficult problems for the devotee making progress on the path of back to Godhead. Many stalwarts in the devotional line fell victim to these allurements.
Please note that statement, no? What?
Many
stalwarts. Not some foolish people. Many stalwarts, Maharati log, they fell down from the path. Because of what? This money and women, very dangerous. Go ahead.
And thus retreated from the path of liberation. But when one is helped by the Lord himself, the whole process becomes as easy as anything by the divine grace of the Lord.
Yeah, that's the important statement. But when one is helped by the Lord himself, the whole process becomes as easy as anything by the divine grace of the Lord. Without that divine grace, many stalwarts have fallen down. Stalwarts. So therefore, that grace is very important.
So one doubt.
Wait. Let's finish reading. Hold on.
To become restless in the contact of woman and wealth is not an astonishment, because every living being is associated with such things from remote time, practically immemorial, and it takes time to recover from this foreign nature. But if one is engaged in hearing the glories of the Lord, gradually he realizes his real position. By the grace of the Lord, such a devotee gets sufficient strength to defend himself from the state of disturbances and gradually all disturbing elements are eliminated from his mind.
So again, you see that. What is that? By the grace of the Lord, such a devotee gets sufficiency. Twice in the same purport, twice. Grace of the Lord. Very important. Otherwise, we have no power against this. We have no power. Great stalwarts have fallen down. No power. So therefore, bhakti means we have to attract grace. And what takes away the grace is offenses. And therefore, we have to be extremely careful. Practically, the only thing that one has to really guard against is offenses, because that is what takes away the grace. And once the grace is gone, finished. And there's no end to the list of examples within our own society. So therefore, one has to be extremely careful. So that is what happens because of material desires and all that. This is how the spiritual potency goes down. Because one loses the grace. When one loses the grace, then one does not have the potency, one does not have the power to continue on with the spiritual practices. That is what happens. And therefore, attracting the grace by following very rigidly, very strictly the instructions of the Acharya is very important. Okay? And in that context, maybe I have shown this once before, but maybe I can still show you again. I don't know if you can quickly find it over there on the Veda base. So this is a letter written to Sudama. Okay, very nice. We're talking about Sudama. So, Sudama. Letter written to Sudama. This is written in Signy. और 1972. Okay, the significant word in the letter is spiritual strength. Yes. Yes. Okay, you have the mic there. Read.
So where
The last paragraph. The last paragraph.
So now from there. So this is letter to Sudama.
You got it?
Sydney, 16 February 1973.
Oh, 73. Sorry.
So now I am.
Maybe wait. He'll share it so that those online can.
16 February 1973, letter to Sudama. Letter to Sudama, Sydney.
Yeah. Good.
So now.
Wait, let him share it.
Down.
The last paragraph.
Now I am seeing more and more that my senior disciples must take an active role in continuing the highest standard of purity which has been established in our Vaishnava line. In your traveling from center to center, you must be very careful to see that the leaders are observing the principles of chanting 16 rounds, rising early for Mangala Arati, participating in the morning and the evening classes, observing the 4 regulative principles, etc. And if there is any deviation from this standard, then it is the responsibility of you and the local GBC representative to rectify it immediately. Within these Vaishnava standards, which I have put forward, lies the spiritual strength of our movement. So you may please do the needful in this regard.
Okay, so that is the highlight statement. Within these Vaishnava standards, which I have put forward, who? Srila Prabhupada. Which I have put forward, specifically Prabhupada is writing, lies the spiritual strength of our movement. Which movement? ISKCON movement. And so it definitely applies to us, correct? We are within the movement, right? We are part of that movement. So if we want the spiritual strength, this is what is required. Prabhupada is very clear. Within these Vaishnava standards. And what are those standards he is mentioning? And you can see, in your traveling from center to center, you must be very careful to see that who? The leaders are observing. The leaders are observing. If the leaders don't do, then how can we expect followers? And Prabhupada is writing, if there's any deviation, then it is the responsibility of you and the local GBC representative to rectify it immediately. These are Prabhupada's instructions, clear instructions. And this is just one sample letter. There are many other letters like that. But this is how we attract grace. This is how we attract grace. Because by following the instructions of the Acharya, the Lord is going to be pleased. Okay, let's give another reference. Okay, open. 10th canto, 2nd chapter. Text 31. Right. Read this translation and purport.
O Lord, who resemble the shining sun, you are always ready to fulfill the desire of your devotee. And therefore, you are known as a desire tree, Vancha Kalpatru. When acharyas completely take shelter under your lotus feet in order to cross the fierce ocean of nations, they leave behind on earth the method by which they cross. And because you are very merciful to your other devotees, you accept this method to help them.
So the acharyas give method and the Lord accepts that method. Purport.
The statement reveals how the merciful acharyas and the merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead together help the serious devotee who wants to return home back to Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings to Rupa Goswami said, Brahmanda Brahmide Kono Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Beach. One can achieve the seed of Bhakti Lata, devotional service, by mercy of Guru and Krishna. The duty of the Guru is to find the means according to the time, the circumstances, and the candidate by which one can be induced to render devotional service, which Krishna accepts from a candidate who wants to be successful in going back home back to Godhead. After wandering throughout the universe, a fortunate person within this material world seeks shelter of such a Guru or Acharya who trains the devotee in the suitable ways to render service according to the circumstances, so that the Supreme Personality of Godhead will accept the service. This makes it easier for the candidate to reach the ultimate destination. The Acharya's duty, therefore, is to find the means by which the devotees may render service according to references from Shastra. Rupa Goswami, for example, in order to help subsequent devotees, published such devotional books as Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Thus, it is the duty of the Acharya to publish books that will help future candidates to take up the method of service and become eligible to return home back to Godhead by the mercy of the Lord. In our Krishna consciousness movement, the same path is being prescribed and followed.
Okay, so just see the previous statement. Thus, it is the duty of the Acharya to publish books that will help future candidates take up the method of service and become eligible to return home back to Godhead by the mercy of the Lord. Going back to Godhead is mercy of the Lord. The method is given by the Acharyas. Okay, so in our Krishna consciousness movement, the same path is being prescribed and followed. Okay, this is the path of the Acharyas. Okay, go ahead.
Thus, the devotees have been advised to refrain from 4 sinful activities: illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, and to chant 16 rounds a day. These are bona fide instructions. Because in Western countries, constant chanting is not possible,
one should not artificially imitate Haridas Thakur, but should follow this method. Krishna will accept a devotee who strictly follows the regulative principles and the method prescribed in the various books and literatures published by the authorities.
So that's the important statement. Krishna will accept a devotee. Krishna will accept a devotee. There is no doubt about it. Krishna will accept a devotee who strictly follows the regulative principles and the methods prescribed in the various books and literatures published by the authorities. Go ahead.
The Acharya gives the suitable method for crossing the ocean of nations by accepting the boat of Lord's lotus feet. And if this method is strictly followed, the followers will ultimately reach the destination.
So twice Prabhupada has used the word strictly. Strictly. Once the Acharya gives the suitable method,
strictly followed.
And if this method is strictly followed, the followers will ultimately reach the destination. That is the faith we need to have. The Acharya gives the process. If we strictly follow, the Lord's grace will come. Go ahead.
This method is called Acharya Sampradaya. It is therefore said, Sampradaya Vihnaye Mantraste Nishphala Mataha. Padma Puran. The Acharya Sampradaya is strictly bona fide. Therefore, one must accept the Acharya Sampradaya, otherwise one's endeavor will be futile. Srila Narottam Das Thakur therefore sings, Tadera Charana Sevi Bhaktasane Vas, Janame Janame Hai Ei Avilash. One must worship the lotus feet of the Acharya and live within the society of devotees. Then one's endeavor to cross over the nations will surely be successful.
Okay, so I think so enough discussion on this point. But the point is that why we're discussing all this? Yes, the spiritual potency. So if we want that spiritual potency, then it's very important for us to be focused in following the instructions of the Acharya, in reducing the distractions, so many distractions, material desires, and all these distractions must be reduced, and one must focus on the path that has been given by the Acharya. To the degree one strictly follows that path, one will attract grace, one will attract the mercy. Then that's how one will get the spiritual potency. Okay, fine. So that is the reason why this simplicity of the Brahmana. Srila Prabhupada tells two stories in this regard about simplicity of Brahmanas. One is from his own personal experience. When Srila Prabhupada was at Prayag, he tells that he had, so his neighbor was some Brahmana couple, and this Brahmana couple, they would rise early in the morning every day, go to the Triveni Sangam to take bath. Now Kumbh Mela is going on. So they would go there, take bath in the morning, they would come back, and the man, he would do a lot of puja part. So he would be reading scriptures, he would do so many pujas, this, that, and all this would go on almost till afternoon. Almost till afternoon, all this would go on. And the wife would do the household chores and all that. And in the afternoon, he would take his lunch, and then after lunch, there must be a nap. So he would take a nap. And in the meantime, his wife would cook a variety of eatables. And in the evening time, both husband and wife would put a small stall outside the house. And in the surrounding area, there were many colleges. And college students, they like to eat. So therefore, then so many of these boys would come to eat those eatables that they would cook. And they would wind up their business by about 9 or 10 o'clock, finished. And whatever money they would get by that, they would be satisfied. So Prabhupada tells this story to show that how Brahmana is just satisfied, yadrichaya, with whatever comes. So not too much of endeavor, but with a little bit of endeavor, whatever they get, satisfied. Another story Prabhupada tells is about this poor Brahmana, and there is this Zamindar in Krishnanagar. I think his name was Krishnananda Rai or something like that. So anyway, so he came to meet this poor Brahmana residing in a small hut. And so the Zamindar told him, why you're residing in the small hut? I can build you a big house with all facilities. Why you're residing in the small? I am satisfied. So here, so I do teaching, and my disciples, they bake something and they bring some little rice, and then my wife cooks the rice, and here we got one tamarind tree, and I take the tamarind leaves, mix it with the rice, and we eat. Satisfied. So anyway, Prabhupada gives these examples for Brahmana satisfaction. Okay, so what's the question? No, that is tamarind rice.
Actually, it's just inquisitiveness. Means basically the Sudama, generally we hear that Brahmanas, they are satisfied when they give the knowledge to the students and then they give in charity something. Now Sudama was so learned, so he must be teaching some students also. And that was the time of Dharma when people used to give charity. Then how he was poor? That is the one question. And Sudama, we only hear that he used to go for begging. But what about his duty? Yajan, Yajan, Patan. So if he does, then he will get the remuneration, whatever. That is my question.
So especially, that is not mentioned over here. So nothing about that is mentioned here. So I cannot say anything. But we can understand that as Brahmana, definitely he must be doing his duties. And so whether he accepted charity or didn't accept charity, there are no details mentioned. At least Vishnu Chakdakur is not mentioning any details. So I don't know about other acharyas. So, but no details have been mentioned. So I cannot comment. Anybody else wants to comment on that? Okay, please.
Prabhuji, in this direction, somewhat close to this, like in Mahabharata, we have an example of Dronacharya, and his son Ashwathama was once, crying for milk. The story that comes, and he was in such a poverty-stricken situation, he couldn't get some milk for his son, and that's why he gets extremely hurt. And then he went and asked from Drupad, and all that story comes. So here, coming back to Sudama's story, not as such mentioned, but the point is the wife is not happy seeing the condition of the husband. Not that she's complaining for herself. My question here is, when Krishna speaks about duty, perform your duty, if in case somebody is so satisfied living a life of an austerity, I'm just asking a question because I move around the secular world, people have this kind of mindset, then why get married at the first place? Why have a kid and then say, I love chanting, I'm not going to do anything? Because, the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita is more, if you have a responsibility, you should do it. And Krishna says, even I do it, for not to set a wrong example. So we have many examples of these great Vaishnavas who be here from Gujarat. What's the name of that? Who? Nasing Mehta. His wife had to push him out, go get something for the daughter's marriage. He went and sat in Bhagavad Sapta only. He never came back only, So many examples like this. So question is, if you have that heart, why get married only and have additional responsibilities? Just a question on that. Your comments.
To add to the list of examples, in Maharashtra, we have example of Tukaram. Very similar, right?
Prabhu, all this is hindsight.
In case of Tukaram, because there was a drought.
Hold on.
There was a drought. So that's the reason they lost everything. In case of Tukaram, it wasn't that he was born in a poor family. Because of the drought, they lost everything. And
but then afterwards also we see, people came, they gave, then he sold and...
So what, after getting married, they had a heart transformation and they became so renowned? So what happened?
I will send one of my associate to teach how to live a nice family life.
You're talking about Tukaram?
For Tukaram. So then I was also getting this question. Then how he is working in family life?
So see, my understanding, somebody can add to this okay, fine. So my understanding of this is, see, these are some very exceptional personalities, and they are totally renounced, and they are showing by their life that how devotees should be totally dependent on the Lord and not bothering anything about one's own needs and everything. So they are definitely showing that high level of renunciation, which cannot be imitated. Just like we talk about the renunciation of Srivas Thakur. We all know the famous story of Mahaprabhu asking, how do you maintain your big family, clapping 3 times. So that was the degree of faith they had, that the Lord will maintain. So this is a high degree of surrender. It's like Atma Nivedanam. And so then the Lord somehow maintains them. So in Tukaram's case also, whatever may be the situation, but we never hear that they died of poverty or they died of hunger. So that means the Lord somehow maintained them. Here also in this case, in the case of Sudama also, so anyway, somehow the Lord is maintaining even till this point of time. And then here, of course, as we will read ahead, then the wife is pushing him. But the point is that these are very rare, extremely rare examples, and they cannot be imitated. And so therefore, as far as the general mass of people is concerned, the Bhagavad Gita is the book of instructions. And so therefore, for the general mass of people, those instructions have to be followed, which the Lord has given in the Bhagavad Gita. And in addition to that, then the present acharyas have to be consulted. So therefore, then what our acharyas have taught us, we need to follow that. So just like Prabhupada talks about, we can't imitate Haridas Thakur. So similarly, we can't imitate all these great souls who were, exceptionally, totally dependent on the Lord. So that is my understanding on this. Somebody wants to add something?
So here, in Grahastha, this question for Grahasthas, many times it comes. So I have also faced this question, why don't you work this, that, and so many things. But the final answer to this is why you did not think about it before, is that even in Tukaram Maharaj's case, he was not a bhakta when he married, twice and stuff. He was not a bhakta in the sense, at least in the past time, he was not a bhakta. And then later on it happens. So hindsight is 2020. You can't ask the question later why you did this before. It is a flow, and then when Lord's mercy hits you, then things happen.
So in any case, so if Grihastha or Brahmachari or whatever, so one has to do one's duty. That is what Bhagavad Gita is talking about. So one has to do one's duty and then depend on the Lord for the results. One can't imitate these great souls. That is the point.
Before Siddhanta Thakur, devotion was more stressed than renunciation. But after Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he showed that Babaji cannot be imitated.
Okay.
So even though they are married, they are very advanced in people, and they may be in white, but still they were very advanced. But after that,
they are Paramahamsas. They are Paramahamsas. Yes. So we cannot imitate them. Basically, that's the point. Okay. Fine. Let's go ahead with the pastime now. Okay. Fine. 7th verse. Okay. So we've read this, I think, right? Anyway, we'll read it once again. Yadrichayopapannena vartamano grihashrami tasya bharya kuchailasya kshama cha tatavidha. Living as a householder, he maintained himself with whatever came of its own accord. The wife of that poorly dressed Brahmana suffered along with him and was emaciated from hunger. And in the purport is mentioned, Sudama's chaste wife was also poorly dressed, and whatever food she obtained, she gave to her husband. Thus she remained fatigued from. That means she suffered more. That's what Vishwanath Thakur says. She tolerated even more than he, because whatever she received as food, she served him. So that means she was suffering even more. Of course, in the present day, we can't imagine such a situation. If anybody even dreams of doing, she'll say, to hell with you. I'm going. Nowhere it's taken. Huh? Where? 2. टू में क्या है? 2 में कुछ नहीं है. नहीं 2-3 में कुछ नहीं है. No. Yes. Acha. Okay, which purposes? Of course, the story is well known, but I don't know why the name is. Yeah, that is there. So maybe it is understood, sort of. Nowhere else also it comes? Name? No? No? Amazing. Okay, fine. So the wife was also doing a lot of austerity. Okay. So now 8th verse. Pativrata patim praham layata vadanena sa daridram sidamana vai vepamana bhigamya cha. Okay, read.
Dried up because of her distress. Trembling with fear, she spoke as follows.
Purport.
According to Sridhar Swami, the chaste lady was especially unhappy because she could not obtain food to feed her husband. Further, she was fearful to approach her husband because she knew that he did not want to beg for anything other than devotion to Supreme Lord.
So this, you can't imagine this standard. And you can see her attitude also. She was not concerned about herself. She was unhappy because she could not obtain food for the husband. So she is starving anyways, but now she is worried that she can't even obtain food for the husband. You know, such a high degree of selflessness. You know, can't imagine actually. And then she is afraid to approach the husband because he doesn't want to ask anything for himself. The only thing he wants is pure devotion. So this is a very high level of surrender. Okay, so Vishnu Thakur gives the same thing. Okay, 9th verse.
Sudama's wife said.
Now we'll read the verse. Nano Brahman Bhagavata Sakha Saksha Shriyapati Brahmanyascha Sharanyascha Bhagavan Sattvatarshibha.
Sudama's wife said, O Brahmana, isn't it true that the husband of the goddess of fortune is the personal friend of your exalted self? That greatest of Yadavas, the Supreme Lord Krishna, is compassionate to Brahmanas and very willing to grant them his shelter.
So here Vishnu Thakur gives an interesting commentary. Of course, it's there here also, but it comes as a nice conversation actually.
So should I read that?
You can.
Vishwanath Thakur. O Brahmana, the master of Lakshmi is your friend.
Okay, so this is the wife saying. The wife is saying that the master of Lakshmi, as it is said over here, what is said over here? Sakha Shaksha Shriya Pati. So the wife of Lakshmi, Shriya Pati, is your friend, is your Sakha. Okay.
But how can the Lord of Lakshmi be a friend of me, so poor?
That's what Sudama is saying. Sudama is saying, how can the Lord of Lakshmi be friend to me? I am so poor.
But he favors the Brahmanas, Brahmanyaha. But I don't have the qualities of such a Brahman.
Very transcendental conversation.
But he accepts anyone who surrenders to him. But since I do not have devotion, I do not have the quality of surrender even. But he is Bhagavan, knowing everything. Seeing your suffering, he will be merciful. But how will he give wealth to just me when he is equal to everyone among all the infinite suffering souls, similar to me, enjoying the fruits of their karma? Then she says, he is master of devotees, Sattvatarshibha. He may not give, but the devotees serving him by fanning and the other actions, being most merciful, will give. And since he maintains the yadus, Sattvatarshibha, what burden or fault is it for him to maintain you?
So he's saying that, she's saying, She is saying that he is the master of the devotees. So he may not give, but the devotees serving him, being most merciful, will give. So indirectly what she is saying, that he is maintaining the yadus who are his devotees. So you go there, the yadus will give you. That is what burden of fault is it for him to maintain you? So he is maintaining the yadus, and so definitely he'll maintain you also. So you go to the yadus and ask them, they will give you, because he's maintaining them. So in this way, she's trying to justify why he should go to Krishna and ask, and Sudama is trying to negate all those reasons why he should. So he feels he's unqualified. He feels he's unqualified to go and ask Krishna because he does not have devotion. He's not surrendered. He feels unqualified. But she's saying, no, you go and ask, because after all, the Lord is very merciful to the devotees. So, and of course, the most important point here is she is not asking for herself. She is not thinking that I'm hungry, please go and ask so that I can at least feed me something. No, she is not thinking like that. She is thinking my husband doesn't have anything to eat. So it's a high degree of selflessness, unimaginable. Okay, 10th one. Tamupehi mahabhaga sadhunam cha parayanam dasyati dravinam buri sidate te kutumbini.
O fortunate one, please approach him, the real shelter of all saints. He will certainly give abundant wealth to such a suffering householder as you.
So she is saying, no, he is sadhunam parayanam dasyati. So he is the Parayanam, the shelter of all the sadhus. So therefore, he'll definitely give something to maintain the family. So please go. Okay, text 11. Aste dhuna dvaravatyam bhoja vrishnandakeshvaraha smarata pada kamalam atmanam api yachati kim nvartha kaman bhajato natya bishtan jagadguru.
Lord Krishna is now the ruler of the Bhojas, Vrishnis and Andhakas, and is staying at Dwaraka, since he gives even his own self to anyone who simply remembers his lotus feet. What doubt is there that he, the spiritual master of the universe, will bestow upon his sincere worshipper prosperity and material enjoyment, which are not even very desirable.
Read that purport.
Purport. The Brahmana's wife here implies that since Lord Krishna is the ruler of the Bhojas, Vrishnis and Andhakas, if these opulent rulers mere acknowledge Sudama as a personal friend of Krishna's, they could give him everything he required. In this connection, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments that since Lord Krishna had at this point put aside his weapons, he no longer traveled outside his own capital of Dwarka. This Srila Prabhupada writes in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahmana's wife said, I have heard that he never leaves his capital city, Dwaraka. He is living there without outside engagements. As mentioned here, material wealth and sense gratification are not very desirable. The reason for this is that in the long run, they give no real satisfaction. Still, Sudama's wife thought, even if Sudama went to Dwarka and simply remained silent before the Lord, he would certainly give him abundant wealth, as well as the shelter at his lotus feet, which was Sudama's real objective.
So that is why she is saying, Smarata pada kamalam atmanam yadi yachati. Even remembers his lotus feet, so he gives himself. So therefore, at least you go there, you see his lotus feet, you will be satisfied, because that is what you really want. Okay, I'll read directly from Vishwanath Chakravarti. He says, so Sudama is saying, but he may be in Indraprastha, Dwaraka or some other place in order to kill the demons. And so the wife says, he has now given up his weapons and does not leave his city. He is only in Dwaraka. He is Lord of the Bhojas, Vrishnis and Andhakas. So by his permission, they will do his bidding. So that means if Krishna gives permission, then all these other yadus, they will help you. But I'm embarrassed to ask anything from him. That's what Sudama says. And then she says, he gives himself unto the person who just remembers him without asking for anything. Even if somebody just remembers, that's what he's saying, smarata pada kamalam. If somebody just remembers his lotus feet, even without asking, he will give. What to speak of giving things desired by the devotee, which are actually tasteless for him, because they are changeable. And moreover, he is benefactor of the universe. As well, by his desire, he gives things which are not prayed for to those who are desiring material things. Going to him and remaining silent, he will give what you desire. So that's what she's saying. At least you go there, and even if you remain silent, he will give you what you desire. Plenty of wealth, and also what he desires to give, being your benefactor, the sweetness of his lotus feet. At least you will experience the sweetness of his lotus feet. At least for that you go. That's what she's trying to say. Okay, 12. स एवं भार्यया विप्रो बहुशः प्रार्थितो मुहुः अयं हि परमो लाभ उत्तम श्लोक दर्शनम् इति संचिन्त्य मनसा गमनाय मतिं ददे अप्यस्त्योपायनं किंचित् गृहे कल्याणि दीयताम्.
Shukdev Goswami continued, when his wife thus repeatedly implored him in various ways, the Brahmana thought to himself, to see Lord Krishna is indeed the greatest achievement in life. Thus, he decided to go. But first he told her, my good wife, if there is anything in the house I can bring as a gift, please give it to me.
Purport.
Sudama was naturally humble, and thus, although at first he was dissatisfied with his wife's proposal, finally he settled his mind and decided to go. Now the last detail was that he had to take a gift for his friend.
Okay, so basically he wants to go to see Krishna, because that is his desire also. Uttama shloka darshanam. That is his main desire. So he's thinking, okay, I won't ask for anything, but at least I will get darshan of the Supreme Lord. So with that intention, he's ready to go, but then he asks for gift. Okay, 14. Okay, read the translation.
Sudama's wife begged 4 handfuls of flat rice from neighboring Brahmanas, tied up the rice in a torn piece of cloth, and gave it to her husband as a present for Lord Krishna.
Okay, so even that she had to beg. And even the cloth was torn. 15.
Taking the flat rice, the saintly Brahmana set off for Dwarka, all the while wondering, how will I be able to have Krishna's audience?
Purport.
Among other things, Sudama assumed that the gatekeepers would stop him.
Next.
The learned Brahmana, joined by some local Brahmanas, passed 3 guard stations and went through 3 gateways. And then he walked by the homes of Lord Krishna's faithful devotees, the Andakas and Rishnis, which ordinarily no one could do. He then entered one of the opulent palaces belonging to Lord Hari's 16,000 queens. And when he did so, he felt as if he were attaining the bliss of liberation.
Brahmanandam gataha yatha. So experiencing Brahmananda in one of these paths. Purport.
When the saintly Brahmana entered the precincts of Lord Krishna's palaces and then actually entered one of the palaces, he completely forgot everything else. And thus his state of mind is compared to that of one who had just achieved the bliss of spiritual liberation. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes from the Padma Puran Uttarkhanda, wherein we learn that the Brahmana actually entered the palace of Rukmini. Satu Rukminyantapura dwari kshanam tushnim stitaha. He stood for a moment in silence at the doorway of Queen Rukmini's palace.
Yeah, that's what he is writing. He remained silent for a second at the door of Rukmini's palace. So forgetting everything else for a short time, he remained as if merged in the happiness of Brahman. Because that's like spiritual world. Rukmini's palace. It's like spiritual world, so he's actually experiencing spiritual happiness over there. 18.
At that time, Lord Achyuta was seated on his consort's bed. Spotting the Brahmana at some distance, the Lord immediately stood up, went forward to meet him, and with great pleasure embraced him.
Continue.
The lotus-eyed Supreme Lord felt intense ecstasy upon touching the body of his dear friend, the wise Brahmana, and thus he shed tears of love.
So much of love. Pritaha. So here what is being said? No, that the guards don't stop, that is there in the previous verses. In the previous verses, in 16 and 17, it said, he passed through 3 guard stations and went through 3 gateways, and then he walked by the homes of Lord Krishna's faithful devotees, Anakas and Vaishnavas, which ordinarily no one could do. So by the Lord's arrangement, so nobody stopped him. And he was seated, spotting the Brahmana at some distance. The Lord immediately stood up, went forward to meet him. That is what is said. He went forward to meet him. So whether he went walking or running, that is not told. Anyway, a little bit exaggeration maybe. Okay, go ahead.
Lord Krishna seated his friend Sudama upon the bed. When the Lord, who purifies the whole world, personally offered him various tokens of respect and washed his feet. O king, after which he sprinkled the water on his own head. He anointed him with divinely fragrant sandalwood, aguru, and kumkum pastes, and happily worshipped him with aromatic incense and arrays of lamps. After finally offering him betel nut and the gift of a cow, he welcomed him with pleasing words.
Okay, so this is amazing reception which the Lord is giving to Sudama. So placing him on the bed and so much of respect, washing his feet, sprinkling the water on his head, fragrant sandalwood, aguru, kumkum paste. So amazing welcome for this poor Brahmana. And then finally pleasing words. And not only that, next verse.
By fanning him with her chamara, the divine goddess of fortune personally served that poor Brahmana, whose clothing was torn and dirty, and who was so thin that veins were visible all over his body.
So Devi Paryacharat, Sakshat. So this Rukmini herself is fanning with a chamar. Vishnu Thakur says in another version of the text, Shabya, another queen, waved the chamara. But this does not agree with the Padma Purana. Anyways, so it is basically Rukmini, who is directly fanning Sudama. Okay, 24.
The people in the royal palace were astonished to see Krishna, the Lord of spotless glory, so lovingly honor his shabbily dressed Brahmana.
Avadutam. So he was like an Avadut, but still the Lord is serving the shabbily dressed Brahmana. 25, 26.
The residents of palace said, "What pious acts has this unkempt, impoverished Brahmana performed? People regard him as lowly and contemptible. Yet the spiritual master of the 3 worlds, the abode of goddess Shri, is serving him reverently. Living the goddess of fortune sitting on her bed, the Lord has embraced this Brahmana as if he were an older brother."
Okay, so they were all very much surprised as to how the Lord is behaving with this poor Brahmana.
Sukdev Goswami continued, taking each other's hands, O king, Krishna and Sudama talked pleasantly about how they once lived together in the school of their guru.
Okay, so now they're remembering their Gurukul days. Okay, fine. So I think so we can continue this conversation tomorrow. So we all know this pastime of Krishna and Sudama going to the forest and getting the wood and all that. So we'll continue our discussions tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So tomorrow we'll finish this part of the chapter and then the next chapter, completing Sudama's story. Hare Krishna.